Uh-oh. Here we go. Good evening, everybody. I hope that you are all as excited about this as I am. The last 48 hours have been a bit of a whirlwind, about a bit of a complicated story, and I'm going to do everything I can to get every single piece of it out to you tonight. This is ProLib Live. You guys like this song? Oh, I love this song so much. Oh, I love this song so much. That is War Cub. That is My World by War Cub. Fantastic song. Brought to you by MusicBed. They are a great licensing service, and they've got some fantastic music. All right, guys. Well, I have got quite the story for you. And it starts with an apology, because 2 nights ago, I said something when I was interviewing the Messenger Reveals that I meant as a joke, and it didn't land because I was factually incorrect, and I want to apologize for it, and I want to own up to it. I said that Steve McRae stole the GDC from Dragnot and Nate Brody, and that is not correct. Steve McRae stole the GDC from a lot of people, and we are going to talk about that tonight. We are going to talk about the brass tacks document. We're going to read it together. I have a redacted version of it that I redacted myself. We will talk about that. And we will talk about how this all came about. How did Steve McRae become the owner of the GDC when it existed long before Steve was in the community? But in order to get there, we have to start all the way back here. This is a hangout between Steve McRae and Christopher Maute. I believe I'm saying your name right, Chris. If I'm not, I do profoundly apologize. This is from September 15th of 2017. And I want to break down a couple of clips here for you. They're fairly short, but I think that there is a Steve McRae who used to exist, and there's a Steve McRae that exists today. And in order to understand the Steve McRae that exists today, we have to understand the Steve McRae that existed then. So, with no further ado, let us begin.
Like, what is it? What is your gig? What was your gig?
I spent 6 years in the Navy as a nuclear machinist mate, petty officer first class, MM1 SW, ESWAS qualified. So basically, I operated the nuclear power plant on the secondary side to. I wanted to supervise the engine room. Basically, you do the lineups, train people to actually operate it in safety.
Now, Steve kind of doesn't enunciate that well. He said he supervises the engine room. Okay, and that's an amazing job. That's not an easy job to do, and Steve McRae did it, and he deserves kudos for that. Sure.
Conditions where you don't have a reactor meltdown or something, because those are bad. I got out. I went into retail. I actually went into retail prior when in the Navy. I was a Radio Shack assistant store manager prior to the military. Then I got out. I went back to Radio Shack, worked for them at about 5 or.
Okay, fair enough. And he goes into more of his work history. The big thing that I want to take away from this is that Steve McRae's background was to supervise an engine room and worked as middle retail management for about 20 years after that. That will come into play in just a little bit. Next, we have this clip. Now, this is from the exact same interview page will reload, but it's the exact same interview. It's just a little bit later in the interview.
Yeah. So what's the evolution of you getting towards where you are?
Man. Okay. It kind of started back obviously with Nadia's room. Right.
Okay. So for those who don't know, Nadia used to run these 24-hour long hangouts. Also, guys, Batsy's not here to put your messages up on the screen yet. She'll be home soon, and she will put your comments up on the screen. That's why that's not happening right now, but she'll be home very soon. So Nadia used to run these 24-hour long hangouts, okay? And it was mainly theists and anti-theists that came in, but there were lots of other people too. And those hangouts kind of evolved into what became the Great Debate Community. That is there's not a direct line, but what Steve is saying here is that his participation in those 24-hour hangouts is how he found the GDC and how he understood that community existed, and what made him want to be a part of the Great Debate Community.
Right? Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So
that makes sense.
I had noticed that there was a potential for this type of format to engage in conversations, have, a rational, reasonable discourse. And I realized that there was a lot of fucked up people on the internet. Okay. Let's be realistic. It was a cesspool.
What makes you think that? How dare you?
I don't know. But I realized that there was potential there. And of course, we all know the story with Nadia's thing, and she kind of like vanished, and that created like a vacuum there, right? And there was still a cohesion of a lot of people that still wanted to carry on and have conversations, and I did like listening to theists and atheists have conversations. I didn't, I'm not siding for either side, but
I'm not siding for either side, atheist or theist. Steve McRae says in September of 2017, I'm not siding for either side. Okay.
I would listen to a theist give a really bad argument, just a shitty ass argument. I'd be like, oh my God, that's so bad, right? And after a while, you learn the arguments. You learn why they're bad, right? Well, at least a reasonable way of having a conversation with them. And so when I started the GDC, and by the way, I need to throw this out there, because I think there was some confusion that's leading to a lot of issues. When I refer to the Great Debate Community, I am referring to the G+ community, not what I call the extended Great Debate Community, right? All the people that are not actual in that group, in the GDC group on G+, that's the extended, right? Because there's always been the GDC, right? There's always been the Great Debate group.
So, thank you for the subscriber there. Laggy Dubs? Either one. So just to clarify, Steve starts a G+ page, which G+ has gone away, called the Great Debate Community. Even though there's already a Great Debate Community, he starts this G+ community, page, and kind of inserts himself as, this thing now exists. Even though this thing already existed, Steve is saying, well, this thing now exists with me at the helm. Okay, we're going to keep going. There's one more point here we need to get to.
Of course. God knows how long on the internet. Of course, I think it was Agent of Doubt that actually coined the phrase.
Who? Agent of Doubt. When? 2012. So there were two more things, because there's one more thing we have to get to. He admits that Agent of Doubt coined the phrase in 2012.
He's right.
I don't know who coined it, but it's fun that you brought that up, because that is, being an online presence, you have your supporters and you have your detractors. And the people that are detractors of you specifically that I've heard from, that is one of the points of contention, right?
Right. And I recognize that. Yeah. Okay. I'm aware, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. People don't think that I pay attention. I pay attention a lot more than people do realize. But I got a lot going on with a lot of stuff. But I do understand that, if I'm going to take any responsibility for something, maybe I didn't explain well enough the differentiation between the G+ group and what other people consider to be the Great Debate, right? Because I just wanted to be consistent that I've used it a very specific way, right? But of course, other people may not have recognized that. And for like see, I don't even like using the term owner of the GDC anymore, right?
Well, because the GDC is really the Great Debate Community, right? Because it is a community on Google Plus that discusses topics within the Great Debate community, which is a much bigger thing than the community on Google.
You're looking at it as a subset of a thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So then that's a fair way of looking at it, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now I lost what I was going with that, though. Refresh my memory.
You were talking about people.
People may know my back is really killing me. So, but go ahead.
This is true. You were talking about being the owner of the Great Debate community.
Thank you much. It's pretty sad when you're getting old and in pain and you can't remember what you said, 2 minutes ago. But when I do say I'm the owner of the Great Debate community, I mean straight up, it's just to fuck with people like G-Man because he.
When I say that I'm the owner of the Great Debate community, it's to fuck with people. Interesting.
It bothers him to no end, right? I'm not going to lie about that. It's just I know it annoys him, so I do it, right? But when I do use that term, it is strictly just for that G plus group, right? And because I am the owner of that G plus group, and I usually say like the host of the G plus because I find it to be
the host of the G plus, and he only says that he's the owner of the GDC to fuck with people like G-Man. Let's pause for a second. Why was this conversation happening anyway? Why was Chris talking to Steve? Why did Chris want Steve on? Well, it was because Steve had started moderating people out of the GDC. He had started to push people out. He had started to unilaterally make decisions about the GDC that affected who was in the GDC, who was in the group. Before Steve inserted himself, the GDC was just a thing, right? And just if you wanted to be in the GDC, you were in the GDC. Steve started saying, oh no, I'm culling these people out of it. I am going to create an umbrella over the GDC that I am in charge of, and I'm going to decide who gets to be in it and what happens in the GDC. So Chris stepped in because a lot of people were pissed off at Steve for doing this and said, let's talk about it. Let's try and talk about this. Let's have a hangout, you and I, and talk this through. Now, I'm going to play you the last clip from this conversation.
The bottom line is the content that you contribute is mostly as a moderator, right? This is like a
no, that's not true. I have so much more that we do more than just like debates and stuff. But go ahead.
Well, I was going to contrast it against the Aaron Roz, who actually put out,
content.
What the hell is his series called?
Foundational False Creationism.
Thank you. Where he's just like pre-recording stuff and putting out contents. So I mean that takes a lot of time and stuff like that. I am not denying that moderating debates takes a lot of time.
I have my own videos that I do put out that take several hours to make, but
undoubtedly. But
content is content, and here's the thing.
Well, content is content, Steve. But I think that let's get down to brass tacks. The idea.
Oh, we're going to get to the brass tacks.
The critiques that have been levied against you most recently have been in the way that the Great Debate community has been run, and most of them revolve around this idea of what was Joe saying? I keep saying authoritative, but he wants me to say are authoritarian. So, like, how do you address that? Like, how do you address the fact that as somebody who is promoting a critical thinking community, that the most frequent argument against you is that you're being more authoritarian than the people who want to contribute to that community want the leader of that community to be? Like how do you handle that? How do you balance?
Okay. Sure. Well, I thought I've explained it. The YouTube channel is different from the Great Debate community, right? Mm-hmm. So when people say you're authoritative with the Great Debate community, I need to know what they mean specifically in regard.
Okay, so Steve is denying that he is acting in an authoritarian manner with the GDC. Let's keep going.
To the G plus community, I have obviously the rules that we have set forth. That
I have rules that we have set forth. I have rules that we have set forth.
People have agreed from day one, right?
That people have agreed. I have rules that we have set forth that people have agreed. The fuck does that mean? That's not... What is that? What language is that? Because it ain't English.
I don't think I really actually have posted anything that where I've actually said anything really that authoritative, right? I mean, we say, okay, these are the issues that have come up. I've talked to people. This is how I think we should go about resolving it, right? Well, and I do news.
Whether you think that they're authoritative or not is beside. Right, that's beside the point.
Right, I get that.
You're hosting a community where you want to welcome people, and the people that are trying to contribute, their main complaint is the authoritarian way that it's being handled. So whether you agree with that critique or not, my question is, how are you taking that on board?
Well, again, in the community itself, right? The best course of action I think I could do is I will set up something where I'll have a maybe like a council, like 9 people from the Great Debate community that, will listen to people, and then we'll get together once a month and just address the concerns.
Okay, so Steve agrees on September 15th, 2017 to set up a council of like 9 people who together will decide things about the GDC. A big thing at the time was who the moderators are. There was a lot of issues with who the moderators are because it kind of seemed like in order to be a moderator on the GDC, you had to be in good with Steve. You had to be, you couldn't be somebody that criticized Steve. You couldn't be somebody that went up against Steve. And this was a huge, huge issue among people in the GDC. People like Dragnot, people like Nate Brody, people like Fabio, people like Fiona, and some other names that I'm not going to get into. Now, after I made that joke the other night on the Messenger Reveals, I was contacted by several people. And those people can reveal themselves if they want to. I'm not going to do that. One of whom offered me a recording of Steve McRae, Red's Rhetoric, Dragnot, Nate Brody, Fabio, a bunch of people in a hangout. And the hangout lasted about 7 hours. It was on December 27th of 2017. I believe they say 27th in the recording. It's a little bit hard to hear. It was about a 7-hour conversation. And this was the second half of it. It starts about halfway through and it lasts about 3.5 hours. Now, because it was recorded without consent, I can't play it for you. What I can do is I can show it to you. This is it right here. This is the file. It's a file. It's a recording of a hangout. I don't know who recorded it. I know who sent it to me. They may reveal themselves. They may not. I don't know. That is up to them. That's not up to me. I'm not going to do that. I will tell you, I will give you a rundown of what happens in this recording. First of all, several people say that their biggest problem is that Steve is using the name Great Debate Community because they felt that it was something that was community owned. It wasn't owned by one person. And they think that it's funny that they use it because the Great Debate Community was a joke. It was satire. It wasn't a Great Debate Community. It was a bunch of derps derping at each other. And they knew that they were derping each other. They knew that it was silly. It was like the Flat Earth Society. The Flat Earth Society existed so that people could debate the Flat Earth to practice debating. Not because anybody thought that the fucking Earth was flat. But other people came afterwards. They were like, oh my God, the Earth's flat. This guy just proved it because fucking water doesn't stick to an orange or some shit, whatever it is. It was a joke. And the Great Debate Community was a joke too. But they still owned it. They felt that it was theirs. They'd been involved since Nadia was doing her rooms, since 2012 when it had first been coined, the Great Debate Community, or before that when the internet wasn't as organized, when it was just Usenets, when it was bulletin boards. People tell Steve that his admission that he's trying to help grow their channels is fine, but he's monetizing their efforts. You see, Steve's idea was that other creators would put their videos up on the GDC, which he owned. He got all the ad revenue from, which had his Patreon linked below. But they would get views for that, and they would get subs for that. So it was fine. It was fine. Go make content, put it up on somebody else's channel. They'll get the ad revenue, right? Their Patreon link is right there, but you'll get exposure. And that's basically the same thing. And people felt that this was antithetical. That if you're going to be the host of the G Plus page, you have to host everyone in the Great Debate Community. Doesn't matter if you agree with them. Doesn't matter if they think that you're right. And Steve didn't want to do that. Steve wanted to make the decisions because Steve had a vision that he wouldn't share with anyone. But he had a vision he wanted to push for. Steve goes on to promise, again, that he will take certain actions, like setting up a council, like setting out rules for who can be a moderator. For instance, on my channel, I don't decide who the moderators are. The moderator team can vote on new members, but I'm not involved. I don't think that's up to me. My mod team decides who to ban on my channel. It's not up to me either. If they have evidence of somebody did something that was bannable and they decide to ban that person, they do. And I don't have a say in it. Now, could I physically go into the settings and overrule it if I wanted to? Of course, but I don't. Because I don't want, I feel that I can get too emotionally involved. I'm an emotional person. And I don't want my emotions affecting who is banned and who is not banned. I want them banned based on evidence, and it is easier to have somebody less biased than me. Steve then leaves the conversation after he makes these promises. And Reds takes over, and Red starts to promise that he's going to hold Steve's feet to the fire. And that he is going to make sure that Steve implements these changes that are necessary, that must happen. Everyone agrees. I have some notes here. I'm making sure I got to everything. And that's it. And that's about it. It's, there's a lot of emotions. People leave, they come back. And it's an emotional recording. I don't know if somebody else will release it. I certainly won't, because again, it was recorded without consent. Therefore, I don't feel that it is moral, much less legal, for me to release it. I'm certainly not going to play any audio from it. But it's out there because it got to me. So maybe it can get to you. Now, this next part gets a little sketchy. And there are a couple of accounts that say the next day the brass tacks document was leaked. We know that it was around the same time. But I do believe that it was probably the next day or within a few days, the brass tacks document was leaked. The brass tacks document is a gathering of information about Steve, about his decisions on the GDC, and people took notes and they wrote down what their issues were, and this document was passed around the community, and a lot of different people contributed to it. I do have the unredacted version. What I've gone through and done is redacted some names that I don't know, that I don't recognize. You may, but I didn't, and so I didn't want to put those names out. We're going to go through the brass tacks document right now together. The names that I didn't redact were Dragnauts, Fabios, references to Nate Brody are in there, all because those people have acknowledged this document and that it exists. So I don't feel there's any reason to redact them. The other people might have, but since I didn't recognize them, I just went ahead and redacted their names. So there are some black bars. Those black bars are hiding people's names. That's it. That's all they're hiding. What I do have to do, though, is I do have to do a little bit of formatting here, which you don't love, but that's how it's got to be so that you guys can read this as well as possible. So forgive me for doing it live like this, but it's the only way to make sure that it's at least somewhat legible, especially for those watching on phones. Okay. Now again, this brass tacks document was passed around the community, and a lot of people contributed to it. Note, this is simply a guide in which individuals will use to discuss the current situation with Steve McRae and the GDC. This was meant to be a document that guided conversations, and more than one person wanted to talk to Steve, right? And the reason that there are different colors is that different colors are different people's contributions. Number one, inconsistent treatment of guests based on their credentials and affection. That was what was written. Is it what was meant? I believe this refers to, as I said earlier, people had an issue that Steve was allowing people to be mods that he liked. And he was trying to move people out of the community, and in some cases was successful doing it, that disagreed with him. And we're going to see an example of that here in just a moment. Consistent search for... Again, I'm going too far. I'm sorry. Consistent search for approbation from others simultaneous with an unchecked demand for ego massage. Ouch. Criticism of others for mistakes in grammar and speech while making similar mistakes. A lot of us are guilty of that from time to time. Taking the ball and going home at the slightest hint of criticism. And this is something that is brought up a lot in that conversation that I can't play for you, is that Steve McRae is thin-skinned, and Steve McRae runs from fights, and that Steve McRae, if you criticize him, he brands you a troll and says, don't listen to that person, they're just trolling, because he's too much of a coward to accept that people will sometimes criticize him. Next, refusal... Sorry, I'm making sure this is lining up right. Refusal to address the concerns of several valued, and may I add, longer-term members of what was formerly known as the Great Debate community, including those who have gone to Steve privately and will remain anonymous, but he has, in private messages, openly dismissed the feelings of older GDC members. You see, Steve felt that he owned the G+ page in the Great Debate community, and that he was the host of it, whatever you want to say, and he got to make the calls. He got to make those decisions because he owned the G+ page. Next, conflation of the GDC brand with Steve McRae as proprietor and opinion leader. Sam was right. That is Scientist Sam. That is somebody else that I didn't redact, because Sam, again, has talked about this. It's a Soviet show trial, the way he runs things, Not sure how to work that into something for those unfamiliar with the details of interpersonal blah, blah. So this is the same thing that I was talking about before. People would see GDC and think Steve McRae. It happened to me. Because I knew of the Great Debate community. I used to play around on Reddit. I'll give you a little bit of my history. I used to play around on Reddit. I was a lurker on Reddit for a long time. And stuff like the Flat Debate subreddit, a couple of the Flat Debates, a Flat Earth Debate subreddits, on our atheism. And every once in a while, somebody would link to something and it would go to the Great Debate community. I was not in any way heavily involved with the Great Debate community in any way, shape, or form, but I was aware of it. And when I decided about a year ago to start this YouTube channel, I saw the Great Debate channel, YouTube channel, and I was like, oh, those things are the same. I know those two things, and they aren't. They are not the same. They never were. Finally, number 7, I hate to repeat it, but he's the Bizarro TE. I don't know who TE is or who that refers to. I don't know what that means. He appeals to a consensus, but never cited papers or even anyone outside of Ozzy or Alex. That's Alex Malpass. Assume that means Alex Malpass, yes. Not sure if all of us feel comfortable comparing Steve to TE. TE's on a whole different level. Again, I don't know who TE is. I don't know if that's somebody that's still in the community or has a community. I have no clue. Dismissal of criticism as drama. How often have we seen this? We see this currently with all the non sequitur stuff. Anything that criticizes Steve on non sequitur is drama. Oh, it's just drama. You're just creating drama. No, we have legitimate fucking concerns. People were patrons of the non sequitur show. They were giving money to the non sequitur show, and fucking shenanigans went down, and they're like, "The fuck happened to all the money that I gave? I deserve to know." Oh no, it's just drama. You're just creating drama. No, it's not just drama. It's my fucking money. Great debate community, a somewhat hijacked term. Much confusion in the past, blending on past usage, current name usage. The GDC has a very restricted set of topics and positions that are allowed. Why? The consensus of Steve's hangout goers tend to agree or disagree on what subjects are allowed or not. And this was a big problem among the old guard in the GDC, in that there weren't these gates in the way. If you wanted to go debate polka dots versus Paisley, I don't know why you would. Polka dots, obviously. 1, 2, you could, and maybe people might want to sit with you and talk about polka dots versus Paisley. Did Jesus wear polka dots? Probably. Yeah, he did. He didn't. That's a joke. He did. He should have, but he didn't. Okay. Now, the GDC acts as some weird proxy for himself. I think we all agree with that. Criticisms of him turn into criticisms of the GDC, even without people so much as referencing content moderation or anything concerning the organization itself. Yet he denied this in the hangout with Malte. Interesting. And I will be providing those links in the description, by the way. I didn't provide the links to that yet, but I will. The GDC doesn't have a real direction, seems to operate under some mysterious protocol only known by Steve himself. Same criticism we've seen over and over again. Connected to that, you all pointed this out, and Malte attempted to gauge the direction by asking probing questions to no avail. Opinions dealing with how the GDC operates are filtered through a criteria which Steve alone establishes. Contributors are the only people who are not maligned when putting forth criticism. Contributors have been defined vaguely as those who come into hangouts with Steve. I've been in hangouts with Steve. Was I a fucking contributor? I don't know. The problem is that Steve wanted what he wanted. And Steve decided what he decided. And Steve was the king. And you plebeians aren't going to overrule Steve. Rah! Number 4, is the hypocrisy, is the GDC high-minded, or is it just for entertainment? Is it above drama, or is it a featured show? Is it for intellectual exchange, or do we drink the Aussie Kool-Aid? He stated he wants to have highbrow and lowbrow content, yet bemoans drama. Otta's drama is lowbrow. He bemoans drama only when it affects his ego. I agree. I'm sorry, I'm being moved around by a very large dog right now. He wants to sit at my feet. I don't think that debates need necessarily be high-minded in order for them to be spirited, A. B, debates tend to bring drama. When you're debating somebody and you're bringing a better argument than them and people are swayed by your argument, drama entails. That's kind of how it is. Yeah, that's all I have to say on that for right now. Okay, so this is Nate Brody. This is Nate. I'm sorry, not Nate Brody. I apologize. It's a picture of Nate Brody. My apologies. This is Steve arguing with somebody on a stream where Nate Brody is pictured. My apologies. He says, if you have been told atheism has a formal definition, you have been lied to. Steve says, of course it has more than one meaning, and the word is polysemous. Stick with the law. You suck at philosophy. Here's my issue with that statement from Steve McRae. I'm not bemoaning anybody that works retail, but I don't see how a 20-year career in retail makes you more authoritative on philosophy. Maybe somebody can bring that up. Okay. Whew, I need a drink for this one. Wish I had something stronger. Steve McRae posted this to the Great Debate Community Google+. Sometime in late 2017. Now, from what I believe, this is on or around the time that the recorded conversation happened. You can see here, he says, thank you all for such an amazing year and looking forward to a breakout year in 2018. Merry Christmas. So we know that this was late in the year 2017, but I don't have an exact date for you. I know when these screenshots were taken, it was in the evening. That's about all I know, because it says 6:44. I'm not going to read this whole thing. If you want to go through and read it, you can. Basically, what he says... I'm going to read this first paragraph for you, and then I will summarize the rest. As many know by now, a few people have decided to leave the GDC because they have brought into the narrative that is being promoted by a few that I am a big meanie pants who tosses out people simple because I get butthurt easily. I never mind the fact that I've forgiven a number of snipers, eventually added back in just about everyone ever removed from the GDC, except for a very select few. Never once removed someone for challenging me, showing me to be wrong, and or hurting my feelings because I'm a special snowflake, don't you know? Nope, the narrative is I'm a big poopy head who can dish it out but can't take it. That normal, everyday shit-talking we all do will be specially levied against me, even though we all shit-talk with each other, that I run the GDC. He missed the part about hosting the G+ community page. He's just summarizing. That I run the GDC with an iron fist rather than being a reasonable and forgiving person that I strive to be. Simply put, some people don't like the fact that the GDC is going in a bigger and better direction. Because he's in charge, I guess? Focusing more on topics, more in issues, more on debates, more on what the whole initial premise of what the GDC was supposed to be about from its inception, rather than focusing on the drama or talking shit. Steve, you weren't there for the inception. You admitted yourself, we just watched it, that it was coined sometime back in 2012. And that it had been around for a long time before that. So how would you fucking know what was going on at its inception? So there will, of course, be dozens of hangouts bashing me, saying how malicious I am, saying that I remove people who step out of line, trashing the GDC. Hopefully anyone who knows me should find as comical as I do. I'm sorry, the grammar is so bad it's hard to read. That is the narrative that some wish to promote to try to bring down the GDC, but the GDC is not a handful of people. It is a brand. Is it though? Is it though? It is a force. It is a sizable group that doesn't depend on a few people to have name recognition. Going into 2018, we have great things planned. Some people rather focus on the negative, while I focus on the positive. My friends, those who I call friend and have earned my trust, there we go, who have earned my trust will see through all this drama, and anyone at any time can contact me privately for details on anything at any time. I won't be speaking much, if at all, about any of this publicly. Then what the... You're literally... Anyway. I don't have any ill will of any kind for those who left, and for those who will, going into the new year, spending much of their time trash-talking me. The people who I thought were friends, that never in the years I've been on YouTube ever made a video about, or just went on TST to trash talk, but it's part for the course, right? Just part of being the GDC and putting ourselves out there, but I see no need myself to speak ill of any of them. For those who have stuck by me, I do honestly want to express my deep appreciation. Many of you have stood up for what is right, not out of a sense of tribalism or even loyalty, but out of an actual understanding. Some people were trying to fabricate drama for their own purposes, and to those I express my sincere gratitude. I lied. I guess we are going to read this whole thing. Let's just keep going, as we're almost done now. I want to wish everyone a very happy and safe Merry Christmas and full steam ahead in 2018. Those who are still along for the ride, you will all be taking an amazing trip along with the rest of us. The drama and the people who just rather try to tear me will continue to do so, while the GDC continues to thrive. This isn't because of me, but it is because of the quality of people we have in the GDC who want to rise above the petty drama and actually focus on the topics. Thank you all for such an amazing year and looking forward to a breakout year in 2018. Merry Christmas! Well, how fucking magnanimous. So, here it is again. Well, we find out that it was edited. What does this little edited part here say? Well, apparently what was taken out, he said. I don't know if you're going to be on the TST tonight, which I cannot join, but in case you do, I've made screenshots. Oh, no, wait. I'm sorry. Where is it? Oh, I thought it was in here. Okay, it's not actually in here. My apologies. So that was in something else. I'm sorry. I got the two conflated. So it is edited such that most of it is deleted, including the part where it says some people don't like the fact that the GDC is going in a bigger and better direction. So he edited it later, and he took pieces of it out. Apparently, according to Steve, what is right means agreeing with Steve when he is upset. We have another comment from Redacted. Here was my comment. I feel like in a similar situation when that thing happened a long time ago, that shouldn't be mentioned ever again, referring to that time with blank, reacting to Steve and Steve by getting everyone involved. So Steve was upset and pulled people in that were just upset about the direction, and he focused on them and said, oh, well, if you disagree, then you're a troll. You're trolling all of us because you disagree with the direction that I think this community should go in. And you have to listen to me because I made a G+ page with the same name. Oh my God, Steve McRae, you just keep adding more drama to stop the drama. Why don't you actually try to reconcile this as an adult? They link Dragnot's assessment of why he left the GDC, which is a wonderful video. If you've never seen it, you should go watch it. It's fantastic. Like everything Drag does is great. Do you seriously think that people like Dragnot... Did I go too far? No, I'm good. No, yeah, that's right. Do you seriously think that Dragnot left for that reason? That's ridiculous. Some time ago, someone said to me in a hangout, I won't say who, that you can be so full of your own ego because of the success of your channel in this G+ community. I actually defended you, saying that you seem to be an overall nice guy, regardless of our disagreements, and nothing like how he just described you. But now I think he was right. And stop trying to ride your imaginary high horse. You have lost the high ground at the moment. You stated that Nate Brody's video was a personal attack against you. Well, it was nothing of the sort, and that you could no longer consider anyone a friend if they made such a video that Nate Brody made. What did Nate Brody say in his video? Well, he disagreed with Steve's definition of atheism. What a dick. Nate Brody, by the way, might be here next Wednesday. I asked him if he would come on, and he said he'd be happy to. He should be here on Wednesday. Maybe we can ask him about it then. That's not why I want to have him on. But after this, we'll probably talk about it a little bit, you know. Love you, Nate. At this point, I feel compelled to leave the GDC. While I rather don't want to, because I love writing something about science and how people give feedback and discussions, but what you are doing and seemingly determined to keep doing is very stubborn and childish, and it needs to fucking stop. People in the old guard of the GDC did not agree with Steve McRae. And Steve McRae pushed them out. Because agreeing with him was the greatest sin there was. Does it remind you of anything that's going on right now? You know, I had the Messenger Reveals on Wednesday night, if you saw that, and then we did an after show that lasted a good long while. And he told me, Steve told a bunch of people, don't go and talk to other people about me. You're not allowed to. He declared that his audience is not allowed, or people that like him, I don't even know what you would call it, aren't allowed to be critical of him on the internet. They're not allowed to go do it. Well, Steve, I'm criticizing you. I'm allowed to do whatever the fuck I want to do. And anyone else is allowed to criticize you too. And they're all allowed to criticize me. Deal with it. We are going to host an open hangout now. And if you want to be in the open hangout, all you have to do is join us on Discord. You join the Discord channel, you go into the general voice channel, and you can be on the show with me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be right back. I'm going to play a song because I got to get ready. I got to do some stuff. And when we come back, if you want to come in and yell at me and criticize me, you are allowed to do that. I welcome critics. I don't welcome dicks. Don't come in and, throw out racial slurs or anything like that. But you can say whatever you want about me. You can say whatever you want about Steve. If you want to come defend Steve, you can do that. If you want to come talk about the old GDC, you can do that. Literally, everyone is invited. And I've directed the mod team that everyone is invited. Anyone can come into this open hangout when it opens in just a few minutes and talk to me and talk to the audience. There are no restrictions whatsoever, except, don't come in and be racist and sexist and stuff, which I don't think anybody would. But if you want to come in and tell me that I'm a huge asshole and I'm an idiot or anything like that, absolutely. If you think that I'm afraid of that, you have never met my wife. All right, guys, I'm going to play a song. And I'm going to be right back. And when I come back, we are going to have an open hangout. Which one should it be? Let's do this one. We'll be right back. Oh, I love that song. Welcome back, everybody. So, we are moving over to the open hangout portion of tonight's show. I am getting all the things together and making sure that my audio is coming through over on Discord. Again, if you want to join us, all you do is join the Discord. I know the mods are throwing it up in the chat. You are welcome to come in to the general voice channel and chat with me, and I am going to put all of the comments up on the screen. So, for instance, we'll do this one. We'll do Nightbot's little message here. From now on, I will be able to put your messages up on the screen while people are chatting. I see so far in the chat we've got Reed is here and Mr. Parker, and I believe that's a sock of some kind. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi. Sock?
Hey, how you doing?
Sokka, how are you?
Good. Good.
Good.
Pretty good. Can't complain.
Well, I can always complain.
Yeah, but I mean, it really comes down to like who's going to listen, and it gets difficult.
Yeah, well, this is very, very true. This is very, very true. How did I do?
I mean, like it's such a kind of like a nuanced thing. Like I think I've explained to people before is that one of the problems that I've had these discussions is that there's like this idea that there is this evil force out there, and then there's these these good guys that are just trying to like spread truth and all this other stuff, and that it's like some type of like cinematic battle between good and evil, but that's not it. Like it's never been the case. And people that buy into this idea is they don't do like the entire thing kind of justice. They don't understand that this is that like Steve's not a bad guy. I don't think that Steve's a bad guy. There's certain things that I disagree with him about. The main thing that I disagree with that I end up really kind of disagreeing with him about is his interpretation of these events, of all this stuff that happened. That he takes a look at these people that you gotta understand, like these posts, like these documents, like these hangouts that were had there, like these were his friends. These were his friends that wanted him to succeed, wanted this community to do something. And we're also told that they were a part of this, that they had an active investment in this to help make it better as well. And when it started going off, when it stopped being like a community ran organization, or a community ran group, and started being, the GDC as presented by Steve McRae, people started questioning that. People started looking at like, well, that's not what we thought that this was about. And so like a lot of their criticisms had to do this, like these criticisms, that for this document stuff were brought forward not as a way to stab Steve in the back or anything like that. And you'll hear him say that sometimes. These criticisms were brought up because he welcomed them, he invited them, he wanted people that were his friends to help kind of keep him in check, and they did this because they wanted all this stuff to kind of work out. And so that the brass tacks document was this kind of meeting points, this agenda of like what they wanted to talk about in regards to some of the problems that they had, because there was an expectation that a lot of these people had to be involved in this community. These people were moderators for him. These people were contributors to his channel. These people were people that were told that they had an active involvement in the work that was being done with the GDC. And because of that, they had an active stake and investment into making sure that it would, carry on in a way that, kind of worked for everybody. And so they brought this up because, you have like Steve was an influence in this as the person that was kind of like managing the Google Plus page. So, right. So he invites this criticism. People write this down. They try to get him to talk to Christopher Mowdy, get him to an offer hangout and kind of discuss the problems that they have. if they're going to have this continued involvement, helping Steve run this community, being contributors to this community, like just kind of moving it along, then their voices should be heard. That was the feelings that they had. And like a lot of them afterwards felt like that wasn't, and that criticism that they had of Steve got turned into a big deal. That this was them, plotting or trying to undermine him. And like I wish Steve all the best. I've always said that. I was a supporter of Steve, very strongly until probably recently. I was in the external chat of his videos not too long ago, where I had to listen to him and Red's Rhetoric and a couple other people talk about how these people tried to steal. Without going there, okay, like had to listen to these people talk about how these people tried to steal his community because they wanted that GDC money. They wanted a cut of the pie, is what they said. And I was in the chat and I was like, come on. I was there.
Yeah, it seems silly.
I was a moderator for your community.
It wasn't about money.
Hold on.
Yeah,
okay?
It wasn't about money.
Like, it wasn't about people wanting a cut of the pie. It wasn't about like people trying to, destroy his community or anything like that, or undermine the work that he put into it. It was people that literally just had a disagreement with the way that he was managing what they viewed as a community ran project. And because of that, they got ostracized. And now when he refers to them, like these people that were his friends, he refers to them as the most reprehensible pieces of shit in the world. And that was the part where it's just like why are you doing this? Okay, like you can come back from this. Like there's been no attempt to kind of mediate this or talk about this. It went for too long with nobody talking. And that the story about this, the GDC went from, there's a couple people that he's not going to name that are trying to destroy his community, to, well, it's Sam and Drag trying to destroy his community. And then all of a sudden now it's like every single person who's had any type of disagreement with him or falling out with him over the last 2 years is trying to destroy his community. It's just this paranoid idea that every single person is out there just trying to ruin him.
Can I say something? I wanted to say something. Like during the brass tacks thing, one, people didn't want to come at him and like overwhelm him, and the way it was leaked out did kind of overwhelm him. But people were trying, and if anybody wanted to go for a quote unquote, Steve, finish him, get him out of the community, we wouldn't have sent Christopher Mowdy. We tried to get Mowdy involved only because he was the most likely to be a mediator. He is a bridge builder. The man is really good at that. That's what he does. And we thought that the best for Steve and the best for the community would be to build this bridge and not burn it, and to fix it. And I think what people don't understand is I think they think that it was like an angry mob witch hunt that was just there to go, Steve, fuck him. And what I was hopeful was that there would be, and I'm an idiot, let me tell you, I was really naive back then. I was hoping that there would be some sort of reconciliation, that we could mend some fences. And the reason why we asked Mowdy to talk to Steve was not to put him on a witch trial. It was actually to help him understand. And it didn't work. It didn't work. In fact, sometimes he would alter the people that were trying to steal my GDC to involve Christopher Mowdy and his now wife Shanna, who they're not motivated by fame or money or people worshiping them. Like most of us weren't. Most of us wanted a discussion. Most of us want community, but we weren't there to make dollars off of each other. We don't look at each other as products. It was just so strange.
And I mean, the other part that needs to be reiterated a lot this is that this is not the people that these discussions that were had with were his moderators. the contributors, the people that were expected to contribute to his channel. Like, that's who these people were. Like, these weren't just like some group of random trolls that were like, you know, out there harassing or anything like that. These were the people that he trusted and wanted to help run his community. The people that he expected to design, you know, the website. The people that contributed to his title card art.
Artwork,
the people that did his thumb.
yeah.
Like these are the people that
his avatar.
To this day, yeah, to this day, he still uses their artwork that they made for him for this. These are the people that were in that hangout that approached him and asked him these questions. Not a group of random trolls trying to ruin him. People that were trying to help his community, you know, trying to help their community.
Real quick, I saw Anti-Ordinary's here. I just wanted to say hi to her. Hi, Anti-Ordinary.
Hi, what's up? I enjoyed your recent videos about the whole rape apologetics situation. I've been shouting them out every opportunity. It's cool to be on your channel.
I appreciate it.
I haven't really looked into this. I think I'm going to look into it a bit more, but honestly, my main issue with everyone kind of having issues with this in the first place, I kind of understand why people are pissed off about it, having this person come in and like co-opt the community that other people were a part of long before. But another part of me just never understood why people didn't create something to combat that, why someone didn't challenge him on a competitive level.
Well, I mean, I could answer that. Is that over time, with Google Plus shutting down, you got to understand the Great Debate community has a bunch of different outlets everywhere. You know, we were the Great Debate community in this corner of Google Plus. There was actually another Great Debate community page that existed prior to Steve. Steve had actually messaged them and asked them to take their page down so it wouldn't get confused. Plus, it didn't have a lot of members to it. So he wasn't even the first Great Debate community page on Google Plus. But like you can go on websites like Stick'em, and you can go on websites like like Facebook, and there are other Great Debate communities out there. This was just really Cal Talk, yeah. This was just a Great Debate community on Google Plus, and there was overlap between them, and you know, people were part of multiple groups because it wasn't a one sum game. You know, like you could be part of as many groups as you wanted to be. But that was the problem that Steve had, was that you know, he thought that people that he wanted it all in his community. Like, you know, he thought, like, one of the original things that he had said, like one of the reasons why he accused Christopher Mowdy and Shannon Rocky of, you know, trying to steal his community was because they ran another Google Plus page called Philosophy of Religion, which had like 10 times the numbers that Steve's page had, and they thought that they were just trying to siphon members, and it was such a ridiculous argument, because why do you need to siphon members? You're not limited to how many communities you could be part of. But he just wanted the conversation to rotate around his community.
Yeah, there were other communities. So like there was the Philosophy of Religion, which was huge, and man, they had a lot of Muslims, which were really hard to find in the Great Debate, and Buddhists and Satanists, and not just Christian versus atheist. And so that was interesting. That was a very interesting group that I was part of, because you would see such a variation of beliefs. And then also, you know, I created Moderate C Word, and Moderate C Word had, it was a joke. So the British anti-theist used to call me disingenuous, and, you know, what C Word stands for is actually, you know, the swear word, the woman's part. And I thought it was kind of funny. And so I decided to wear that, you know, like, you know, when someone calls you an insult, you know, I was just like, okay, fine. I'm a moderate C word because I was considered a moderate Christian or a liberal Christian. And that bothered some people at the time. I'm probably am a deist now, but, and so I created that as a community of folks that are reasonable theists that like to engage with the secular community. And we hit about 500 members, and, you know, like for a hobby and a pastime, that wasn't, you know, that bad. And nobody was in it for money or fame or ownership or branding or anything. It was literally just wanting to connect with people. And Google Plus was getting so weird that it was hard because the little people were starting to get lost.
So, but to the point, like why we didn't create something else? We did. We went to Discord. Is Steve like left the Great
Discord's
Debate
become
community?
an island, though.
Okay,
Everybody has
like
islands now.
I know, but I mean, like that's where like a lot of people are. There's different sites out there. Like if you want to know where all the people from the Great Debate community went to, the majority of them went to different Discord servers, places like Dragdot server or Tom and Boxes,
Tom and
or
Boxes has a lot. Yeah.
you know, like there's a lot of different like Great Debate. Like these are all the people that we used to have these discussions with back in the day. They still exist. They're still out there. They're on Discord. Steve doesn't have the Great Debate community. He has a great drama community that follows around the trials and tribulations of Steve McRae.
Let me tell you like how hard it was to get Christians to be involved with Steve. Steve will usually have a couple pet theists that he treats well. So like, for instance, Messenger reveals lately, S.J. Thomason lately. Me in the past, I was a pet theist at one point. He treated me well. He would treat other pet theists decently and kind of coddle them and protect them from any criticism. And it was kind of interesting what he'd do in that case. But one of the things that would happen is like none of the Calvinists would ever join Steve McRae's communities. Like all the Carm people and the people that where the argument was at, like with
Right.
Calvinists,
Sure.
they would not join his community, and it was for ethical reasons every time.
I have a question. So in that recording that I can't play, unfortunately, there is an allegation made, and also Batsy, you can take over the messages now. You can bump whatever you want. There was an allegation made that he would treat female theists in a way that he would not treat male theists. Is that what you're referring to? Like when you say pet theists?
I don't know about that. I think he would protect certain theists. I don't know about the female versus male
Right.
thing,
And I've never
but
seen
I
that
would say
either.
that-
It was weird.
I would say it's more like if you were a theistic evolutionist, you would get protected. So like I was a theistic evolutionist and so was General Han Solo. And so we would be protected from any criticism at the time.
Interesting.
S.J. Thomason is a theistic evolutionist as well.
Good old S.J.
So it's just, and as somebody that, was protected to some degree, I would say, yeah, I think I was coddled a little bit. I think I was.
There's a good example of when Sam went after Fuzzrana on some science, and Steve had to jump in and stop him because we can't have somebody actually disagreeing with the theist that's on the show.
Right. If you went in too hard, he would, and it wasn't even like being rude or anything like that, but if you went into serious mode, like he would really soften it up.
The timeline is fuzzy, and there were more videos that people sent me that I was like, I could do 4 more shows on this. All the content that was sent to me over the past couple of days. When did he come into the community? I couldn't find. I think it was 2015, but I'm not sure. Does anybody know?
So 2015, kind of late, and he shows up in the beginning in Nadia's Hangouts and says he's been watching for a while. And then, fortunately, Nadia's Hangouts, a lot of them are hidden. But if you poke Tom in boxes, he has access to some of them. And then he starts showing up there. And then in some of our off-airs, one of my good friends, he shows up as well and right away starts talking about the definition of atheism and hijacks the conversation where we were just shooting the shit. And we're like, all right, we're all bored now. And so he starts kind of like there, and then he moves on to TST. And so that's how I remember him maneuvering kind of through those.
Oh, no. Can you talk a little bit about TST? I don't feel informed enough to let everybody know what that is.
So the TST was a show run by a guy named JD Kane, or what was the name? The Vexatious Atheopath or something? I can't remember. He had another name for it.
It was the Vexatious Atheopath because Jonathan Sarfati called him that, and so he owned it. But yeah, it was just JD Kane. always.
Yeah, it was always on JD Kane's channel, and what was happening was that there was so much stuff that was out there, and there was a lot of good conversations that were happening, but there's also a lot of like really ridiculous conversations that were happening, and it became an outlet that once a week it was you got to remember, like, this is a time when there was like sometimes you would like check Google Plus and you'd find that there was 8 different hangouts going on that you could join, with people all over the place talking about just the various topics. It was really,
it was great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Tom Rabbit might have something going, Nadia might be having something going, I might have something going. Xbox 360, who is Xbox Feed, sorry, who would have stuff going. There was just always these hangouts going on, and the hangouts back then were stupid. Like, they would go for like 6 hours straight. It was a revolving door of people coming in and out of them.
It was fantastic and glorious.
Yeah, and especially because you had 2 channels, Nadia's and Xbox's, actually was the other one, that were going almost 24 hours a day with other people.
Oh,
and so because of this, like, you could miss a lot. Like, at the end of the week, people would just would get together and they would talk about some of the arguments, some of the stuff that came up. If there was like a kind of like a really popular thing that was running around, Arcane Logos running around doing like this new wave of like presuppositional apologetics, then we would discuss that. Sometimes it was discussing the arguments that people were using. Sometimes it was discussing the stupid things people would say. Like, one guy who was coming into the community saying that marriage, the act of getting married, was one of giving permanent consent.
That's the one I was going to talk about. Yeah, Tommy
Hall. So you can never actually rape your wife because she gave consent at marriage. And Talking Shit Tuesday was literally to bring up these really stupid arguments that people would use and vent about them. Essentially, be like that. This is some of the stuff that people are saying out there. And yeah, I was talking shit about this. It was. I mean, it was in the title, talking shit.
It wasn't ever meant to be serious, though, either.
Because there were some arguments that were so bad that that's all you could really do at that point. Because you did the serious argument, and afterwards you're like, fucking Tommy Hall thinks you can't rape your wife.
Arcane Logos thinks that birds are jet-powered.
Yeah.
Debbie thinks the earth is flat.
Yeah, like you'd have, say things like that. Like, birds were rocket propulsed. Had rocket propulsion. Like, literally, they farted out air that caused them to fly through the air. Like, this was stuff that
there is a hangout where I got Von Helton shrieking at me because I said all our favorite founding fathers were deists, and Von Helton just blew his lid and started screaming at me. There's a hangout of that.
But these were all like really kind of good shows. They were just a good summary of the week's thing, and it would cover people's arguments and people's behavior. And Steve worked his way into that. And when Steve says that, we talked about the TST, you can go back to JD Kane's channel. I think his actually channel is called Talking Shit Tuesday now, and you can look through the period of time that Steve was in the community, and he wasn't on the show once or twice. That you could actually look at this and see that for almost 40 straight weeks, Steve McRae is a fixture of that show, getting in there. And
at that time, I was like, dude, does Steve have a job? He's always on here.
And then it got
Radio
to
Shack, I think, or Circuit City, one of the two.
He was a Radio Shack manager. And by the way, so was I.
Right, there's nothing wrong. I worked in retail. That's nothing to be ashamed of. That's what he did.
No, I just think it's funny. Yeah.
But
anyway.
then like Steve was a fixture there. And then what had happened was that it was one of the first kind of like drama incidents within the GDC. Like, we'd already kind of dealt with like, okay, Steve's created this Google Plus page. A lot of people were migrating over there and trying to post link to Hangouts and stuff on the Google Plus page. And Steve was still in there promoting the GDC and stuff on Talking Shit Tuesday. But then he got pissed off at G-Man, if anybody knows who G-Man is. He's a evangelical Christian known for his very abrasive behavior and terrible arguments.
And he's very anti-LGBT constantly.
Yeah, and he got pissed off at G-Man for his behavior in the Hangouts, and he put this message out there that anybody who was
was that associated with G-Man that went into a G-Man hangout would be suspended from his community for 2 weeks. And that was actually one of the first warning signs. We're just like, hold on a second, you're going to kick somebody out from participating in GDC events and GDC communication and talking because somebody went into a room to argue theology with a religious person. And there's I think you can find it. It's on JD Kane's channel. I think it's called I can't remember what the date is, but I think the episode's called like Drama in the GDC or something like that. And people talk about it. People just like what the fuck does this guy think he's doing? Saying that he's going to kick, suspend or kick people from the GDC for associating with somebody he doesn't like.
So we went to him privately and said, like, listen, man, like, what's going on here?
And when this is like I said, like that, for people that like I said, Steve's not a bad guy, okay, but Steve's also not a saint, okay. Like if you ask Steve about
I think he's a bad guy. I disagree with you, but you know that.
That's fine. You can disagree.
I agree with Spackle. This is a democracy. Steve's a garbage person.
He's human, just like the rest of us. We all make stupid mistakes.
Spackle lives on a boat, okay? That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, you're a hippie. You don't count.
And I'm a contrarian. But
entire crew are all 3-year-olds. Let's remember that too. But go on. I'm sorry.
So, if you ask Steve about this, and he's put this on Twitter, he would say that he was just joking around, that this was just a joke. He wasn't serious about this, but he was.
Does Heavy Holler think it was a joke?
Yeah, Heavy Holler got kicked from the community because he went to a G-Man hangout.
Can I tell you about Heavy Holler?
Hold on.
You need to know that Heavy Holler's not a troll.
In that hangout on Talking Shit Tuesday, Red's Rhetoric comes in at the end of that and says, yeah, Steve kind of overstepped his bounds on that. Yeah, that was stupid. I kind of told him that, hey, we should just say that we're not going to support, people shouldn't support G-Man for 2 weeks, but Steve took it too far by saying that he was going to kick people from the community. And you have Red's Rhetoric actually saying, not to do this. This wasn't a fucking joke. Moderators left his community and said, listen, we're stepping down as moderators because we don't like what you're doing because of this. And that was the last time that Steve McRae was near TST. After that, JD Kane and a lot of people that were associated with that became the enemy as well. They said it was fine for Steve McRae to go on there for 40 weeks straight and criticize people for their arguments and their behavior. But the moment that the spotlight got turned on him for him doing something silly, that all of a sudden it was too much, these people are reprehensible pieces of shit.
You have to understand that a lot of us were going in hangouts and we were getting into these shell games. Like I'd walk into a Nadia hangout and I'd be fighting with Christian Hillbilly about gay rights, and I'd be pro-LGBT and he'd be against. But we would still walk in the hangout again the next time and have another discussion about something else, even though I think he's a piece of shit.
How it goes, right?
And then wait, hang on. Let me finish that thought real quick. There were other people that thought I was a piece of shit. Mark would come in and he was an anti-theist and from the UK, and he'd be like, listen, I don't like your apologetics, and this is why, you moderate cunt. Sorry, can I say that word? I'm sorry if I demonetized you right now.
I'm not monetized.
And go in.
You can cunt your way all the way home and back. It's fine.
And I would be like, oh my God, I'm so insulted. But we would argue, we would get in the brawl, and then we would walk away and we'd come back and still engage in the community because that was the community we were in.
So when Progressive Liberal was mentioning about the Nadia live streams and stuff, I thought that sounded like a really, really cool idea. I don't understand what the point of Steve McRae's Great Debate community channel even is at this point. Like, the name is just a name in itself, because he literally just goes on there, and I'm trying to control myself because I'm on your channel, Progressive. But he just goes on there and has a circle jerk about whatever problem he has going on the internet at the time. He rarely goes on and actually talks about anything.
It's now Steve's little junk channel now.
Yeah, it's not an open platform at all, despite what they say. It's literally just Steve's alt channel.
Absolutely. And, I want to say real quick. Go ahead. You finish first.
So when you were talking about that, I really liked the idea of just having 24 hours or long-ass open revolving door live stream, so I just hopped in the time it took you to finish that sentence and created a second Great Debate community channel for
and
that.
I told the
that will
mods,
be live tomorrow.
Right, and I told the mods before we went live tonight, I said, listen, if Steve McRae comes in, if Red's Rhetoric comes in, they're allowed. This is an open hangout. If they want to come on, if anybody wants to come on and say that I'm wrong or that I got the facts wrong or anything, I'm not afraid of criticism, right? I'm not afraid of anything. Also, Dragnot's here. Hi, Drag.
Hi. I was out with the wife listening to this. Grab some dinner. There's some things I wanted to clear up for folks.
Absolutely, please.
So, one of the first people that Steve attached himself to in the community was me. I was where Cheshire is sitting, right there, and you can ask everybody in here when there was a problem with Steve, who did y'all go to?
Yeah, because you were the Steve Whisperer at the time.
Yeah, you ain't wrong.
So when I talk about the shit that Steve does and Steve has told me, I already know what's going to happen. I already know the shit that's going to happen with Redline. I know why Redline started going flat earth. A lot of people don't even actually know why, other than probably Shadow Tier here.
Yeah.
The funny thing about Steve and Reds, both Steves, they are a match made in fucking heaven.
Oh my God.
Both of them have some severe issues in their real life. And they both come here to try and make something of it.
Are you talking about Steve Shives as the other Steve?
No,
he's not. He's very specific.
Nothing to see. Nothing to see here. Move along. Move along.
And if he has a problem with me saying that, he has my number. So,
but let's be real, it's out there on a YouTube video. Like, it's not a secret.
If he has a problem, we can talk about the last phone call he gave to me, and we can talk about that publicly. So the funny thing about Steve, because I'm dropping dimes tonight, and if Reed or somebody else is upset, feel free to unmute yourself. The funny thing about Steve is that he finds some of the lowest common denominators out there, some of the dumbest motherfuckers he can convince of absolute bullshit. And I love it. He thought that was going to fly with people who had already been in a community of skeptics, people who had already been able to discern fact from fiction. And he removed himself the second he figured out that people were not going to sacrifice their integrity. The second he figured out that some of us aren't going to be amongst his weird little cult that he's actually trying to get. Because, mind you, this is the same guy who would whisper in my ear late at night in off-air hangouts and talk about shit like replacing Matt Dillahunty. Yes, he thinks that he can actually be Matt Dillahunty. He actually believes that. He actually thinks that. He actually thinks that he deserves a syndicated radio show.
I don't think that department exists at Circuit City. But what I will say
Radio Shack, which is now out of business. Sorry.
Right. What I will say is in that recording that I can't play, unfortunately, you are prominently featured, and you leave about an hour into it out of absolute frustration.
Now, did Steve ever tell you what my role is in the brass tacks document? Did you ever hear about what he says about that?
Well, I know that some of it was contributed by you, but no.
So he went and lied to people, and he came up with this fucking conspiracy about me taking over and Sam taking over and all this other kind of stuff. Now, from what you heard, because Steve I guess he's now going to figure out that was recorded. He didn't realize that at the time, but he had a bad habit of doing that to other people, but he didn't realize that people could do that to him. Because one of his dick suckers, one of his new ones, because I had broken away once I figured out who he was, I said no. One of his dick suckers, one of his main ones, you might know him, wanted to help facilitate this coming to terms with Steve in private. Unbeknownst to us, it was so it wouldn't embarrass Steve publicly, because he can talk about people publicly, but you can't talk about him publicly. Point in case, he had an issue with Scientist Sam because Scientist Sam doesn't care. If you're wrong, he's going to tell you you're wrong in real time. I had to facilitate a discussion on Facebook because McRae was so fucking butthurt that Sam called him out for being wrong that he went and cried to me. can you please tell Sam to stop calling me out publicly? That actually happened. One of the instances that I realized how fucking fragile he is. So this guy loves to talk about how nefarious I am. I created this document and I put this, that, and the other. And progressive liberal, as you listen to what I actually said to him, does that match up with the conspiracy that he's putting out there in public?
No. What you implored him was what I described. I kind of summarized it pretty quickly, but all you wanted to know specifically what parameters he had for determining who was moderators and why it seemed like everyone who was a moderator on his channel was someone that liked him. And he would not answer your question.
Weird. Isn't that strange?
A little bit.
Isn't that a strange question? Now,
a little bit.
Now, if you check the moderators he has now, do you notice a theme? It's a bunch of dick suckers who are too afraid to say shit to him.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to him at all. I'll be honest. I don't go on his channel. I don't watch his shit. But
it's dick suckers. That's why he surrounds himself with them. That's why he came up with this fucking conspiracy. Because if you actually pay attention to what happens, he moves from community to community. And then the people who find out who he really is instantly become trolls. Did anyone ever notice that? Everyone becomes a troll, no matter how close, no matter their proximity to him, no matter what he says about him. It instantly all becomes null and void. Doesn't matter if you have a PhD, a master's, or you're uneducated as he is. You become a troll.
One thing that was talked about, real quick, Shadow, I have a question
includes
for
Bill Ludlow.
Yeah.
Bill Ludlow. Yeah.
I want to get into that too. But first, one of the things that Fabio brought up in that discussion was the fact that when you went to the Google Plus page, you would see it was very messy. There was a lot of different things posted in a very messy way. But I don't really have the context. Can any of you, do you recall what that's referring to?
So there's this is, it's funny to say because in light of especially the stuff that's happening with the Non Sequitur show right now, where you see these claims from Kyle saying that he did so much work and all Steve did was show up. The Great Debate Community was very similar to that. And the website. The people did all this stuff for him, including the moderation. The page was set up by Steve, but it was chaos, because the moderators were people that he just kind of threw in, just kind of, picked random people that, there was times that the moderators had to get down and have these meetings. It's listen, what do you want us to do? You haven't actually set up any type of rules of what moderators are supposed to be doing. And we had to kind of organize this, into how we're going to structure this, put the pages out there, what discussion, where people are going to be discussing certain topics. And it was a real mess.
Yeah,
but,
set up categories, so everything was categorical at one point because it was getting too crazy.
So yeah, but that came from the moderators, that he kind of put in there because it was just I guess because he put us in this position, we have to start doing this stuff now. So I guess this is what we're going to do. But there's one thing that I want to kind of touch on here, okay? And this is a point that came up inside that off-air recording, and that that you listen to Progressive Liberal and as well as other people here, is that there is a real kind of point of contention that kind of came up, and that was over Nate Brody being kicked from the community. And one of the things that he had said when that happened was that Nate Brody had people whispering in his ear about that were trying to destroy the community. People that were trying to destroy the community and Steve's channel. Now, this is in a room with a lot of his friends, a lot of his mods. People that, like I said, now are reprehensible pieces of shit to him. Dragnot, Scientist Sam, Fiona, Fabio, Kevin, Scott, Jackie, MP, a lot of people. Holy spackle. And he says this, he starts talking about that, when they go over this apology, because there was a lot of issues with, he wrote this apology to MP for kind of kicking him out. But he brings up this secret cabal of people that are trying to destroy his community. And if you can listen to it, if anybody doubts me on this, call me on this, whatever. I'll fucking release that sound clip from this part. Why not? But he says that that there's these people that are trying to destroy his community, and Dreadnought and Sam and all these people say, well, hold on a second. We're doing all this stuff for you. You want us to be active in this. So who's doing this? Help us out here. And he says, no, I'm not going to tell you guys. Not going to tell you guys. I'm going to play this one close to the chest. And after they kind of like try him a little bit more, just like, listen, you want our help with this stuff. Tell us who you think is trying to destroy the community, and we can, try to put a stop to this. We can help counter it. We can do whatever. And he doesn't say. And so Dreadnought ends up saying just like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm calling bullshit on you. I'm calling bullshit on this right now. Like, I don't think that there's anybody. I think that you're just lying to fucking divert from the fact that, you're getting called out for fucking kicking people from your community. And Steve utters something that might sound familiar to a lot of people. Well, you're just going to have to trust me.
Yep.
You're just going to have to trust me, guys.
Mhm.
That's it. Just trust me on this.
Because I think I ended up leaving the hangout shortly after he says that.
Yeah, and everybody in this room that's just like that. Yeah, every single person that's in there is just like, you know what? It's like, like I said, room full of skeptics. No, we're not going to trust you on this, Steve. We're not just going to take your word for it. That's a huge claim, and that's it. And
mind you, at this point, I'm one of Steve's most trusted people. Like, there's very few other people he would go to, and I'm calling bullshit on it because I knew he was lying.
And about not even a month later, when all the shit blew up with the brass tacks document and all this other stuff, Steve goes on air and retells the story to his audience on the Great Debate Community channel. Actually, no, it was on his Steve McRae channel. But this time, when he tells the story, he doesn't say that it's just like these unnamed people. He names them. Dreadnought, Scientist Sam. The people that were most outspoken against him in that hangout, all of a sudden became these villains that he had spoke to. That's that were trying to destroy his this community. People that he at the time he said, no, it's not anybody in this room. It was nobody. There was nobody that was doing it. But he kept on pushing this narrative. And he continues to do this with every new person that gets labeled into the troll group. They become part of this fucking cabal of fucking trolls that are just trying to ruin him. And for almost a year, nobody called him out for this shit. We're just like, let Steve go do fucking his own thing. Nobody fucking cares.
A lot of us made a conscious decision to say, look, we're not going to fight Steve. If Steve wants to lie and have this delusion, then fine. You know what? We're not going to, because some of us spent actual time, because this was during Christmas. My in-laws were in town, and I was spending time dealing with this shit. Sam was on a cruise ship with his family. And so I'm having fucking the inbred Redline call me a fucking liar on the phone because he wants to be up Steve's ass because he actually believes the bullshit. And so I'm like, okay, look here, hillbilly. If you're going to actually believe this guy, and we've actually met in real life, by the way, multiple times.
Florida man.
And I was like, that's really telling. There's a few other warning signs for Redline that I picked up on, but that was kind of the nail in the coffin. So go ahead.
I didn't get.
Well, I just want to finish. I just want to finish this one point, Shadow, if that's okay.
Go for him.
Yeah. The thing is that Steve has continued to put forward this story of these people trying to destroy his community, and the only difference between when he did this back 2 years ago and when he's doing it now is that he doesn't have a group of skeptics around him to call him out on his bullshit. They fucking just eat it up.
Bingo.
And this is fucking obvious. The most recent video that Steve put out that was linked to me, there's one part that was linked to me that was fucking hilarious, and he's talking about trust. What is it to trust? In this case, he's referencing his online girlfriend, and says that we have trust, and the topic, what does trust mean? What is trust in this type of relationship? And it's somebody who doesn't question me. That's what trust is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's so funny.
He finds the lowest common denominator. You look at the people who believe the shit that come out of Steve's mouth, and they're fucking idiots. All of them. I
just want to say that. Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say that, Dragnet, you questioned me.
all the time. There are people in my own Discord that actually like there's no like Jiminy and Dragnod that exists, but there is with Steve because he finds some of the stupidest fucking people he can find to agree with him.
Sokka and I disagree often.
How many heated arguments have I gotten into people this week in Dreg's Discord?
5, 6. Discord a day. But that's what I love about it. I love that this like the lowest common denominator are rallying around this idiot who can't even shit straight nor get his life together. But at the same time, two of us, me and Sam, are the ones that are trying to steal what little he has online. Like, you have to be a fucking idiot to really believe that.
Part of the reason why you have to be an idiot is, one, Dragnet, I don't think you enjoy leading people.
No, I don't.
I think you enjoy talking and stuff like that, but I don't think you like the leadership role a lot. And Sam has got real life stuff going on. He's like, I don't really want this to be a thing. So like, it was just plain stupid.
I think Sam was near his Senate review, actually. Like, I want to say he was preparing for his Senate review because he's a PhD student. And so, like, what was he garnering from his online community that we helped build in the first place?
Unmuted. Okay, so what I want to get over into before I forget is
Reed's saying something.
Oh, go ahead, Reed. You go first.
Yeah, I'll push back a little bit just because I was called out by name. I think a lot of it...
I turned you up. We were having a little trouble hearing you, but I just turned you up all the way, so go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me or...
Low. You sound like you're in a box or something.
Everybody turn Reed up. If everybody does it, it'll
turn him up. I'm waiting to hear this shit.
Yeah. Go ahead, Reed.
How about now?
It's just the same. But just go ahead. You're fine.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll push back a little bit because I was called out by name for drag. But yeah, I think a lot of this is, there is some trolls who just seem to constantly go at Steve. The first time I encountered the main one was Agrippa. Now, I had no idea, what was going on before or after, but he just shit on me just for simply liking content red out of nowhere. And then, I go to other people's channels like Drags or whatever, and they're in their chats, they're welcome and blah, blah, blah. It's like, man, this guy's an asshole. He just, shit on me on Twitter for no reason more than liking a certain individual. And sorry I was out of the loop, but what the fuck, I mean, so those type of people, I think, lend credibility to this idea, like, of the troll, quote unquote, community.
So you heard me speaking negatively about someone and then presumed that I was a troll.
No, me. No, Drake, actually, the first time what turned me off about you was the way you spoke about people in Kyle Discord that he had, that last one. He said... And you said that anybody who supports Steve's just a fucking moron and a troll, like you were, or just an idiot and whatever, and the dumb shit, like you were.
I stand by that.
So, that's fine, okay, but when you're in the community and you agree with Steve's philosophy, especially about atheists, hear that and you're just like, what the fuck?
So you can't agree with somebody on a point, but then separate your personal feelings from them. So because you agree on one aspect of one topic, you just presume that they're right about other shit.
No, I don't. No, I disagree with this narrative that anybody who enjoys some of Steve's content, his latest bloviate
Before we get too deep into this, because well, Reed, here's the thing. I think this is
before like.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I mean
this is connected with the Bill Ludlow stuff. That's what I wanted to get into. Is hold on, Reed. Let me.
We can get into the NS stuff too. I'm pretty sure.
Well, yes. So
Bartholomew Roberts was one of the last wrenches. And shit. I was booted off of that and the Discord without even being an asshole when I was still a fucking patron. So, I mean.
Okay, well, here's the thing that kind of gets it, guys. I'm turning on the sound on that alert. I don't know why it was up so loud. I think that gets into the Bill Ludlow stuff, and I really wanted to touch on the Bill Ludlow stuff. I honestly, I was going to talk about that tonight too, but the stuff that I talked about was already 45 minutes long, and I didn't want to go on for 3 hours. For someone like me, I wasn't involved in the community, enough to understand the Bill Ludlow stuff. Drag, Spackle, anybody.
From afar. I watched it from afar, just so everybody knows. Like, okay. I didn't engage in the community like I do now or anything, but I was around during the GDC debacle.
Right.
I've been watching all these people for a while, like Shannon and Apologia and Redline when they were first, getting going and all that shit.
You were watching Red in like 2012?
I've been watching from afar. What?
Because Redline started his channel back in like 2013.
Yeah, he's one of the old ones.
So
he's actually
you were watching when he was just getting going,
Well, no, not when he was just getting going, but when he was still Redline. So in like 20.
Well, my question is, what I want to get to is the Bill Ludlow stuff, because it sounds very similar to what you're talking about. Like, my understanding, let me just set the stage. My understanding, and I'm sure I don't have the complete understanding, so you guys correct me, was that Bill Ludlow and Steve had a disagreement on atheism versus anti-theism.
Well,
Bill Ludlow? No. The Bill Ludlow issue came because Bill Ludlow removed himself from the drama.
Yeah,
Bill Ludlow was focusing on his. I think you might be thinking of Nate Brody, because that's their disagreeing on.
I'm sorry, I said Ludlow. I meant Brody. I'm so sorry.
Brody, yeah. Okay,
my apologies.
The long and short of that, Nate was pushing back heavily. Steve, you don't push back on Steve. You acquiesce to him. And so,
that's the narrative. That's the narrative that I
really?
got to finish this thought on that I wanted to debunk, because I was moderator for Steve. He cleared all of his. He's only got like 10 now. But yeah, I was a moderator for Steve, and I openly disagreed with him quite a few.
Did you go into a live public discussion in a hangout with him and challenge him on his topic?
No,
Okay, then you did not know. Right there, that's the cutoff. No, it does matter. That's what some of you new folks don't understand, right? Saying, no, Steve, I kind of disagree is not what I'm talking about. Do you want me to elaborate on what I'm talking about? Yes or no?
I'm sorry. Greg.
You can show him the $50 patron guy and how Steve treated that guy.
So there's a distinct difference than you being a pissant in the side chat and then you going into a live hangout with him and actively arguing with him, or having a channel and antagonizing him from the channel. Do you understand the difference?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if you understand the difference, that's the difference that I'm drawing.
Drag, to be fair, you said you cannot disagree with him, and all of his moderators are cocked with their implying that even if you were in his chat, you couldn't disagree with him, which is false.
Okay,
well, but hold on. Why did I get kicked then? I mean,
why did Lucifer Almighty get kicked?
So like when when we were in when Steve was having a hangout and they were talking about the principle of charity, and I was in the comments saying, "There's like, hey, listen, you keep on misusing the term principle of charity. You're using the principle of charity to describe being charitable." But that's not just what the principle of charity is. The principle of charity is an actual position in regards to an argument. And to say that you're going to give somebody the principle of charity is the same thing as saying that you're going to steelman their argument. And I laid that out inside of the external chat of a video that they were talking about the principle of charity, just offering that bit of correction, where I was told, ignore Sokka, he's a contrarian, and then I had my wrench removed. And then I was hidden while Cheshire called me a misogynistic piece of shit.
That's interesting. What were you saying, Reed?
What was this, before or after the?
That was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh.
What were you saying, Reed?
Okay, yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But it's because
but I mean,
I went after.
Like,
yeah.
Honestly, though, you know that you were one of the last wrenches on the show. So, could that have had anything to do with it or not?
Watch that goalpost move.
No, it's that I've been I was also one of the first wrenches on Steve.
Legitimate.
I was one of the first wrenches on Steve McRae's channel and the Great Debate channel. I was one of the last moderators of his Great Debate community. I went away for a deployment, and when I came back, most of the shit with the GDC stuff had hit the fan, and I kind of maintain a kind of a neutral position. And I mean, you can even see in this hangout. These people, like a lot of people here don't like Steve, and I'm maintaining that. Listen. Steve's not a bad guy.
And I profoundly disagree. Profoundly,
which is fine because again, it's like I'm not going to get ostracized by Spackle or Drag or anyone here because I don't think that Steve's the big evil fucking villain here. The problem that I have with Steve is that Steve is not some perfect fucking virtue and beacon of honesty and integrity and unimpeachable ethics that he fucking says he is, because he lies. He lies about Drake. He lies about the shit that happened with the GDC, and he lies about this random little stuff. But this little stuff,
Fiona?
what
he lies about me.
Lies about Vince.
He lied. Well, yeah, they lied about Vince. They lied about Fiona is sexually assaulting Reds at the airport. This is those are the lies that nobody calls him out for, and it's disgusting to sit there and know that these people are lying about this shit, and then to listen to the comments out there where people say that this is a guy that with unimpeachable ethics. No, Steve's not a bad guy, but he is human. And to wave around the fucking the flag and beacon of a critical thinker and fucking unimpeachable ethics and all this other shit, when it's just well, what the fuck, man? And so sorry, I didn't toe the line. I didn't fucking give in to this having to agree with everything that fucking Steve said. And the couple times that I did question him on, well, hey, that's not what happened in the GDC. Which put me on fucking had the target on me after that, and then afterwards when I made a subtle correction to the use of the principle of charity, I was gone. I was ostracized. That's it. I'm done because at least I didn't get the label of troll. I got the label of contrarian. That was the way that they dismissed me.
I want to take a quick pause. Hold on, because I got to shill real quick because I haven't done it all night. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. We do open hangouts every Sunday and Wednesday night, and they are open and anyone can come in. Don't forget to give the video a like, and thanks for being here. Okay, Drag, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna. So what were you saying, Reed? I want to see that goalpost move again.
No, I'm not moving any goalposts, man. I don't agree with Steve a lot. I'm sorry. Bartholomew was kicked.
I mean, we can continue. So one of the fun things, and I don't think you actually understand, the reason why you persist and someone like Sokka had to go is a qualitative difference. You don't offer the same type of challenge to him that Sokka does. That's just a fact.
Sokka
trying to be
can smash him on philosophy. Let's
You're
get
not going
real.
to actually challenge Steve intellectually, so he'll keep you around. You're good in the spot that you're in.
Well, you're insulting him. I wouldn't do that.
Well, it's just
But
demonstrable fact.
Yeah,
but what I'm trying to say, Reed, is
it's
like
just that I don't
like
spend enough
Sokka can
time.
demolish me in an argument about philosophy, right? So
I'm very familiar with Sokka, and yeah, he's a very brilliant
and
guy.
Steve is not much better at philosophy than I am, if not on par with me. Like, he's not that great. So he can get steamrolled. But because he likes to define things for people and kind of be an expert now, because he knows some jargon, Sokka's a threat. When Sokka disagrees, it's threatening.
I mean, that's just a nicer way of saying what I said. I don't feel the need to be nice to people who turn a blind eye to Steve's bullshit. Because Reed seems bullshit.
A blind eye, Greg. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. No,
well, let me say this, Drag. I think
this is your problem, dude. And
I
this
think
is why you turn more people off from.
It's not a popularity contest. That's why you got me fucked up.
Let's just say, Drag, I was naive, and I thought during brass tacks that we could still mend defense. Come on, we can still mend defense. We can still mend defense, and then like one by one, like good people were getting destroyed. I can kind of see how people can be naive.
I agree with you. People can be naive, but then when Reed set up his standard here about people, disagreeing in the chat versus disagreeing in the hangout, and then Sokka brings up the example. No, that's not true. Move the goalpost.
Hey, I'm just going to say that, like, Reed's got some problems with his mic here. We got to give him a chance. Sorry, Reed. I was just going to say that, listen, it's really easy to overtalk Reed with his mic. If I think we all have to be actually kind of like cognizant of that and give him a little bit more of a leeway on this, because I think he's the only person in here that's defending Steve right now.
Sure.
I just want to say real quick, I know that there's a little bit of an audio issue with Reed. I'm trying to, as everybody is talking, I'm messing with the audio so that it's a little bit better balanced. Because Reed, I'm not trying to hate on you or anything, of course, but you're just really hard to hear. So guys, right now, if the audio is kind of going up and down, it's because I'm adjusting it so that everybody's more equal. You guys go ahead. That's what I'm doing.
Point of not dogpiling on Reed, because
that's fine. I mean, I am going to give him shit because I think he's still ducking. Like, there's no way that he is in and up under Steve's ass as much as he does, but for some reason doesn't see the very obvious things that we pointed out here. Right. Yeah. I think he's purposely turning a blind eye to some of the shit. But
that's how I feel about Sweet Heathen versus Cheshire, right? Sweet Heathen to me looks like somebody that might not be a bad person. Like, I don't know, but I think she's completely blind and a dope. But when I look at Cheshire, I think she's evil. She's malicious. She's cruel, and even her own people whisper it, and they know. So I see a big difference between those two women, and I leave Sweet alone. There's no purpose to take a swing at Sweet, but there is. Cheshire deserves to get swung at. Also, Fiction Fighter is old guard, and it's kind of nice to see her, like Von Helton days. But anyway, I'm gonna take off.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Progressive or Ethan, thank you so much.
Sure.
Because I want to make sure I got this right.
Thank you,
We've got somebody in here defending a proven rape apologist and an online scammer and an outright liar. Like, I mean, how much clearer do some of the channels out there exposing these guys got to get? It's been repeated over and over and over and over again. And, you guys have been spoon-fed. So whoever's defending these guys, how dare you be so ignorant?
Fiction,
how dare you?
Fiction, hold on for a second.
That's all I got to say about that.
Fiction, hold on. Reed, do you actually watch other channels that disagree with Steve?
Yes.
Because I know you. Okay,
I think Warden is a fucking guilty piece of shit.
Okay, so when Steve actively tells people not to listen to folks who disagree with him, have you spoken out against that?
Yeah, I've said many times that I think Warden in public and in Steve's chat is a guilty piece of fucking shit, and I disagree with Steve's narrative about.
Okay. Okay, Nair. Okay, cool. So when Steve is telling people, right, his audience, that they should not go and listen to other people's channels. No Nate Brody, no Unirock, no AO, everyone who's a troll now. Have you spoken out against the fact that he wants to preclude sources of information from his audience?
I don't think he's done that.
Really?
He said that, yeah, if what I gathered was he said, you know, if you're going to do that, I may have to block you, but you can still.
So you are aware that there is a punishment.
If you're going to have a Twitter interaction with these people because he doesn't want to be tagged in group with, you know, certain people, which I understand because they're constantly pushing.
So the punishment for being friends with people he disagrees with is acceptable to you, to be amongst the circle of Steve?
I've seen some of the.
It's a yes or no question.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that tells me really all I need to know right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that right there, that mindset, right there tells me a lot about you.
Fucking chat was filled with fucking with nothing but Steve's a rape apologist and people popping up in there constantly with different fucking handles of all this shit. Yeah, you'd probably want to stomp too.
So Steve is free to mute the people that he disagrees with, right? But to command other people to either, you know, they preemptively block all the people he doesn't like, or there's a punishment involved with it, I think is a bit unreasonable, right? Because that just seems really excessive.
In my case, I mean, I'm here. I subscribe to Progressive Liberal because I love his content.
Is he on the Steve acceptable list?
You know, who?
Progressive Liberal.
No, I mean I've made a video where I called him a rape apologist for 5 minutes.
I would assume not. I don't know. But I subscribe to Steve. I patronage. I Progressive Liberal. You know, I love his fucking content, especially his, you know, political content. That's why I love Progressive Liberal.
That you don't see that as a bit of a conflict when you have Progressive Liberal who opens up conversation for people to disagree.
He doesn't tell me. I can't fucking subscribe to Progressive Liberal. I'm still I still go on Steve's chat, still open the chat. Like, I don't even know what, I don't even know how to answer that question because I'm here and I'm still there. So
this cognitive dissonance is kind of what I'm trying to point
out. Here's what I want to say real quick to the audience. If there's, hold on, Reed. Hold on one second. If there's anybody else that wants to come in and tell me why I'm wrong or why Drag's wrong, whatever, that wants to defend Steve, you are welcome. All you have to do is join the Discord and get into the general chat channel. No one is blocked. Steve himself could come in if he wanted to. He won't, of course. I know. But I'm just saying, anyone is welcome. So this isn't some pile-on Reed thing. I like Reed. Reed and I get along. I had no idea that Reed was such a big Steve fan. This is the first I've learned of it, which is a little bit... am I blocked by Steve? I'm sure that I'm... Probably. Who gives a shit?
I'm on Steve's block list.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine at this point. But if anybody else wants to come in, I just want you to know you are welcome. No one's going to kick you out for defending Steve or anything. You can come into this open hangout and talk. Don't be a dick, of course, but you are absolutely welcome.
I'm not defending all of Steve. I mean, he's fucking got issues like everybody else.
Do you think the conspiracy that he cooked up is normal? You think normal people cook up those type of conspiracies?
I've never seen anything like McRae online ever in all my years. No, he is his own little narcissistic.
There's this guy.
No, listen, I'm not finished yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What? No, go ahead.
There's this guy on Twitter with weird hair and orange skin who reminds me a lot of Steve. But go ahead, Fiction Fighter.
No, it's fun. I see Dave McGinnis has an opinion again. Hey, Dave McGinnis, come on in, man. Come on in. I'm enjoying dinner with my wife, actually. We're both enjoying the drama. So if you want to talk about what people being productive and what they're doing, I could invite you to my lab sometime and actually teach you something. So anyway, Reed, I think it's interesting that you say that Steve has the same problems as everyone else. The conspiracies that you've heard from Steve's own mouth, does that sound like something normal people do?
They're not complete conspiracies. I mean, I've seen these fucking trolls.
Hang on.
I've interacted. Agrippa's
Okay.
a fucking piece of shit.
I didn't say anything about Agrippa. So specifically, let me be very, very specific. Very specific. The conspiracy that he concocted, Steve concocted, about me and a PhD student trying to take over an online community. That conspiracy.
I haven't heard that.
You haven't heard that?
PhD student trying to take over.
Well, the first 45 minutes of the show addressed it. I have a question being addressed to me from the chat. I want to answer it. Progressive Liberal, I am curious, if you had a problem with the GDC with Steve, why were you on his channel as little as 6 months ago in October? Well, Reality Unplugged,
I was actually on that first.
I didn't know. I at the time believed that
stream I ever did. I was on with you, Mikey, Steve, and Nick.
I remember. At the time, I was not aware of all of this. I was given some information just in the past 48 hours. I mean, I think I was sour on Steve when I made my rape apologetics video last week. Was that last week or the week before? Obviously, and I said I didn't want to associate with him or anyone that was associated with him. But you know, you would have to go watch the first 45 minutes of the show, I guess, to understand. But you guys go ahead.
I just want to point out too. Sorry, one second, Reed. Just in reference that stream that you're referring to with the Progressive Liberal, I was in that as well on Steve's channel. I was in the same hangout.
Oh, you? I know. Puff was there. I know Mikey was there. I know Nick was there. Yeah, Steve. I didn't know you were there, Saka. All right.
So I've got a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so are you still defending McRae, or what's going on here? I'm just curious.
Defending what action? Like, no, I don't defend everything he does. I like
not defending everything, but what are you defending on that creep anyway?
I'm just defending the fact that what Drag said, I think, is false. But he said that, you know, Saka was kicked, and I didn't
think what?
know Saka was kicked. I guess I was wrong.
Cutting out. I can't. Nobody can hear what you're saying.
You have to turn him up.
I got what he said. He said that he wasn't aware that Sock had been removed as a mod and lost his wrench and got hidden from the chat. And he thinks what Dragnot says is shit. That's more or less.
That's all you're against Steve vote? That's it?
His narrative that you can't go against Steve is shit, because I've done it in public, in chat, in writing, numerous, especially with the
He's been like that pretty much from day one. You guys do realize that, right?
Do now.
That behavior when he first came online, when he was doing Google Hangouts. You don't remember that?
I remember Google Plus and Google Hangouts. Yeah, I mean, I watched them.
And he was building his little cult from day one. And his behavior has not changed. It's just gotten worse. But he still had the same behaviors that were very prominent when he first came on.
I think they say the same thing about Matt Dillahunty building a cult, you know?
No, that's not a cult. You should go look up the meaning of what cult means.
Well, hold on, Fiction, hold on.
I know what it means. I know the bite model.
Reed, when you say, okay, so you're drawing a parallel between Steve and Matt. I've actually met Matt, right? I actually do talk to him fairly regularly. What are the parallels between Steve's behavior and Matt?
Do.
Right. So what are the parallels? I'm actually genuinely curious.
Me too.
I think the link would be one group says lying, to gain followers. Really,
So Matt actually does not care about that.
Actually, is lying about the definition of atheism and gaining way more followers.
There's only one definition of atheism. Do you know what it is?
No.
Know what it is, Reed? Do you know what it is?
No, you enlighten me.
No
Lack
belief
of belief?
in any God. No belief in any God. Plain and fucking simple. Very simple. It's not a complicated
Not in
thing.
philosophy.
Forget the word salad. It's just plain and simple as that. It really is.
Not in
Well,
philosophy.
okay.
If you're having a philosophical conversation.
I think we got away from the question.
Yeah, I don't want to devolve into atheism, defending atheism. That's not what we're talking about here.
I don't think
either.
No, I don't think that was an answer to my question, right? Because you started to answer it by saying, well, Matt wants to build a following. Matt doesn't actually care. And we can tell you from, again, he actively blocked people who simply annoy him. He actually is not interested in garnering a following at all whatsoever. That is not something I can call him right now and have him tell you that. All right. So that's false.
So blocking people who annoy you.
Yeah, actively doing it, as a matter of fact, right? If you're trying to build a following, you're trying to get as many people to follow you as possible, right? You're going to attract more flies with honey rather than vinegar, right? So I'm curious where and what Matt's behavior that parallels Steve that would give you that indication.
Trying to broaden the scope of his definition of atheism.
Okay, so Matt doesn't actually spend time talking about that. He finds that topic boring.
Yep, it's way past boring.
So, is there a series of videos that he made or something that you can point to?
What it would do, Drag, like has show, is block theists who bring it up.
He blocks theists.
Annoying. He blocks annoying people. Doesn't mean just theists. He'll block an annoying atheist as well.
So here's a fun thing.
He blocks annoying people. I guess he's a cult leader.
Hang on.
Okay, no, we're getting way away from this because you're making claims, right, about people being blocked from Matt's show based on the definition of atheism. So are you specifically talking about other atheists or Christians or both?
Well, even theists who try to breach the subject see Matt block.
Okay, so what names do you have? Because I actually do know a bit about that block list. So who specifically are you referring to?
What names? Are you kidding me? He's been doing the show since fucking 2005.
Cool, then give me like 2 names because I would love to know because I know why he blocks people from the show. It's actually a really easy metric. But I'm curious, who do you have in mind that gave you this indication that his behavior, Matt's behavior, mimics Steve's?
Oh, really?
So you're telling me that you have never seen Matt Dillahunty block a theist and trying to argue the term atheist?
He blocks them, right? Not because they bring up the topic. It's the manner in which the conversation is had. Again, you have some names, specific names of people that you know are blocked because they brought it up.
Specific names.
Okay. Do you have a time frame?
I don't have specific.
You don't have a time frame. Okay. Now you're just making stuff up, right? Because I know.
Can I try to jump in?
Sure.
Hold on a second. I think that
I've watched this goddamn show since 2005. I'm a huge Matt Dillahunty fan. Like.
Reed, have you ever watched
a specific name? You know how much content I consume every day?
Hey, can Reed just out of curiosity, what were your opinions on Matt's video on his own channel about the definition of atheism and agnostic?
I think he gave the proper definition on that.
Well, he described the word as polysemous. He talked about the philosophical definition as well as the more colloquial one. And he said that the one that he chooses to use for discourse, but at the end of the day, really what matters is, are you articulating the idea to the person that you're having a conversation with? Right?
Yeah, I actually watched his solo videos too, where he's just...
Yeah. No, it's a great video, because I'll tell you something.
I'm aware
about
of it. I'm aware of it.
Yeah, because in that video. Like he doesn't want to argue over the definition of atheism and agnostic, because I'll tell you something, that there's no argument to be had. Okay, when we talk about like these types of arguments, like we could argue for certain premises. We could argue for certain like facts of reality. We can present arguments in this way, but I can tell you that one thing that never happens outside of like this really like small kind of like community we have here is arguing over definitions. There is no argument over definitions. The words that we have and the usages that we apply to them are completely constructs of like the society that we live in, which is why words change in their meaning. And now with atheism right now, ever since 1972, really, with the Flu's presumption of atheism and the label between like weak and strong atheism, that what ended up happening is that atheism got used in this polysemous way. That there was two different ways in the context that we can use this word. One is the one that had been channelly used through atheistic arguments, where we put it as a propositional-based thing, and the other was more of kind of like a psychological state, whether or not you believe in a god or not. And these both have uses depending on the environment in which you're using them. But if there's any type of confusion about how these words are used, the easiest way to kind of describe them is, well, to just say what you mean. And that's it. Like that, there's no argument over whether a definition is more right or anything like that. You can try to present a good reasoning behind why there might be some utility to different definitions depending on the context that you're using them. But there's no argument that people should put forward there for trying to argue a definition as correct. Because there is no intrinsic value in the universe that makes a definition right or wrong.
Oh, actually, Sokka, for a second. Hold on. Reed,
I completely agree.
You agree? Okay.
One definition does impose a larger burden of proof.
What?
Well, it's really about, like Sokka was saying, it's the utility of the definition, the utility of how you're defining or using, which I would say actually kind of does make one right and one wrong. If everybody thinks that, because words have baggage, if the baggage that comes with a word, if most people using it think of it in a certain way, then you using a different definition, even if the people also use it in that other definition, then by using it in that definition means you're muddying the topic. Okay, sure, you can agree to the a definition beforehand, but you're making it worse.
So,
Okay, can we
real quick. Yeah, hold on. I'm taking charge again. Hold on 1 second, everybody. First of all, I need to give out a special thank you. Batsy is the one putting your messages up on screen. And if everyone could just please say thank you to Batsy. I just went out and personally thanked her in the other room. But I really appreciate her putting up messages from both sides, too. We are not, this isn't, we're not trying to put out a narrative here. We're trying to have a conversation, and I appreciate that. I do want to encourage anybody else that wants to defend why did Steve not steal the GDC? Did he not countermand it? Is he not an authoritarian who just took the community away from people to profit himself? If you want to come in and make that argument, all you have to do is join the Discord, get into the general chat channel. You can have that conversation. Guys, please go ahead.
That's exactly what Steve did. He tried to make it all for himself.
So I think we somehow
failed. He even failed at that.
We somehow got back on the definition of atheism. I don't know how we keep getting back to that topic, but it's ridiculous. Like this is like the third time that we've gone back to that. It's ridiculous.
Ludlow, because we haven't talked about Bill Ludlow, and I think that's a very important moment in Steve's transition to this authoritarian, unilateral owner of the GDC above all else. So if anyone could... I'm sorry, the Honorable Earl David Warden just said something and it made me laugh. So if you guys could please enlighten us a little bit on Bill Ludlow.
Yeah, so what I would really just... it seems that Reed has kind of painted Steve in a particular light, and I don't think that after kind of talking to Reed, I think that he is where I was at a certain point where he's just going to view things the way he's going to view them, and that's on him, right? It is interesting to kind of poke and prod the mind of a Steve supplicant. But when we talk about the Bill Ludlow thing, I'm really not sure how people come to any other conclusion other than Steve fucked up. And I'm, again, Dave McGinnis, anybody else who loves Steve and think he's the shit. I really want to know, because I got the chance to talk to Bill in some of his last days and how much he was worried about getting funding for the projects that he was doing and how stressed he was and how much stress Chester and Steve and others caused him in this man's last days alive. So if it seems like I have a bit of a hate boner, you goddamn right. Absolutely. Because it does bother me that they cause that man so much worry.
Can you go into it a little bit and explain what happened, like A, B, C, D? Here's how the situation evolved.
So Bill Ludlow was doing his best to kind of steer clear of the Katie Joy hate boner, the stuff that a lot of people in Steve's, I guess, camp don't want to talk about because, you know, that's a no-no. And he was making a post, Bill, about his project. He has a series of videos, live videos, where he talks to people who were young earth creationists, yada, yada, yada. And so he was advertising that. Well, this is around the time Steve was going around sea-lining people, trying to get them to call out, you know, folks about the non sequitur show and all this other kind of other drama he's into. And so he appeared on Bill Ludlow's Facebook post. And so Bill goes, "Hey, can you put that shit somewhere else, dude? This is not the time nor the place for it." And Steve blew the fuck up and went the fuck off on Bill after Bill stood up to him and told him, "No, this is not your playground, dude."
It's typical narcissist behavior right there. Bingo.
So myself, Robertson, quite a few other people were on that thread already before Steve even arrived, because mind you, Steve can't see us. He has us blocked. And it's just like, if someone has a screenshot of that, people need to see that, because no one tagged Steve, no one summoned him. He found his way there because he needed another stomping ground to profess the gospel of fucking Steve. And it is terrible from the fallout from that, because it spilled over into Twitter, and Cheshire, of all people, bad-mouthing Bill because Bill told Steve to fuck off and take your drama with you.
So just the context of that was that the post was that he was going down to meet up with Matt Dillahunty and somebody else. I can't remember who that person was. I don't know if it was Aaron Raw or Seth Andrewson, but he was going down to an event where they were speaking, and he was going to meet up with them. And Steve made a post on this Facebook page. Bill Ludlow was saying, "Hey, going to be talking with Matt and whatever about this. Looking forward to it." And Steve jumped on that post and said, "Hey, ask them where Kyle has my money. Or ask them what Kyle did with my money," as if Bill Ludlow, Matt Dillahunty, or anybody else gives two fucks about what Kyle did with his money.
They don't.
And what happened? So in that thread, a lot of friends of Bill Ludlow were kind of like, "Why are you posting this? Stop this! There's this doesn't concern Bill. Don't bring your drama over here. Just fuck off. Just get lost. Go somewhere else." And Steve lost it on them. He lost it on them. He started saying that telling people, like friends of Bill Ludlow, people that don't know who the fuck Steve McRae is or what his shit is or anything like that. He's telling friends of Bill Ludlow essentially to go pound sand. And after being out all day, Bill Ludlow comes back and he sees that Steve McRae is in this thread on this post that he made about going to meet Matt Dillahunty and somebody else, and Steve is losing his shit on Bill Ludlow's friends. Because they're telling him that this is not the place for your petty drama, and Steve fucking loses it at this point.
So let me read off something real quick. So you're upset in the way Steve disagrees with people, or that he did it on your Facebook with people who overreacted to his original post? And what is he lying about exactly? I still haven't seen him lying. And Cheshire is her own person, and Steve doesn't control her. Does that sound familiar to you, Reed? Does that particular tweet sound a little familiar to you? Take your time.
You're muted, Reed.
I love for you to answer me that. Because after you wrote shit like that, I got a chance to talk to him. Bill, that is.
Sounds like to me that people like Reed like to echo what they hear continually from the McRae cult.
I can read you what's in my inbox between me and Bill if you want to read. Would you like me to do that?
Sorry, I stepped away.
Oh, do you want me to read off an interesting tweet during all that? Read
off of what?
An interesting tweet towards Bill during the fiasco where Steve jumped on his fucking thread and started a drama.
Yeah, I don't agree with how Steve responded to Bill.
Oh, okay. Let me read off an interesting tweet in the thread, the subsequent of that. So you're upset in the way that Steve disagrees with people, or that he did it on your Facebook page with people who overreacted to his original post? And what is he lying about exactly? I still haven't seen him lying. And Cheshire is her own person. Steve doesn't control her. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah.
Who wrote that?
Steve?
You.
That would be you, actually.
Red Chase Lounge. Fuck me. You gotta be fucking. This is why the fucking working class should never get internet access.
Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, fuck you, Agrippa.
I read.
You piece of fucking shit. You are a piece of fucking shit.
We can't all talk at once. Agrippa, listen. No, wait. Hold on, Jack. Hold on. Hold on.
Seriously, Red.
Hold on. No, wait, guys. I will start to mute you. I am king here. I get to talk. It's my Discord. It's my channel. Agrippa, you're welcome to be here, but you have to. You got to moderate the attacks. Okay. You are absolutely welcome to be here, but there are community guidelines I have to follow. This is going out live on YouTube, so that's all. That's my only request.
So I'm going to say my little piece, and I'm going to leave. So it's shit like that me and Bill were talking about, Reed. Just in case you were wondering. That's why he was worried. That's why he was concerned. And that's why he was stressed in the last few days of his life. And so if people are wondering why I'm a little angry, I'm a little upset, I can show you the fucking messages. Because the stupid shit that some of y'all do on the fucking internet actually has an impact on people. Some of you fucking idiots need to be kicked in your goddamn teeth. And I mean that shit.
Yeah, so, it triggers people like me.
Oh, fuck you.
So,
you're gonna what?
Hey,
you're gonna blame some fucking tweet.
Listen, Sparky.
For his demise.
You had my docs. You attacked a mate of mine called Bill Ludlow for no reason. You ganged up on him. You sat there, and if you didn't say shit about how Steve was treating him, you were complicit. You all then came back after poor Bill passed and went, "Oh, isn't it sad that Bill died?" Bill died. You guys have no moral compass.
I had no idea Bill was even sick.
You are so goddamn stupid.
I had no idea Bill was even fucking sick.
What?
It shouldn't have mattered.
Come on.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, shouldn't have mattered.
It doesn't matter. Look how the fuck you talk to people on the internet, Agrippa, and you're gonna say it doesn't fucking matter? What if somebody that you talk to like you do every fucking day died the next day? It wouldn't fucking matter, right? Fuck off, you piece of shit.
I call people Biff and Sparky, and you're a working class. You're a working class guy that loves Michigan golf courses. Really? That upsets someone that much?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's all you say, isn't it? That's all you say. Way to fucking sugarcoat it.
Give me an example. Give me an example. You guys couldn't stand the fact that
Jesus Christ, you fucking rip on the working class every fucking day. You direct it at me because you know what I do for a living, so fuck you.
It's called trolling.
I work my ass off.
It's called trolling.
Yeah, it's called trolling. Well, I was just trolling Bill Ludlow. I didn't know he was sick, so fuck off.
Really?
You fucking piece of shit.
Maybe you should pay attention before you troll, huh? How about that?
Oh, yeah, you should, shouldn't you? Yeah, I see how all this goes. I see how it goes.
Listen, mate, you little boys over there in little Steve's world have been ball watching him for years. You weren't part of the GDC. You weren't even part of anything. But you suddenly latched on to King Steve. You can't think for yourselves. You've got no moral compass. You parrot exactly what Steve tells you to parrot.
You have a moral compass.
You can't think for yourself. Yeah, mate, I do. Because you know what the argument with Steve and I was about? Do you actually know my background with Steve? Do you know anything about me? Because I used to cut. Go on, tell me what you know about me.
From your only that you were an only that you were active in the only that you were active in the non-sex show and you were completely normal.
And then I snapped. Yeah, you know why I snapped, mate? You know why?
No, I don't know why you snapped because you never even had a fucking conversation with me. Because all you fucking do is tear anybody down.
Now's the chance, Sparky.
Now you want to have a real conversation.
Here's the facts.
Now you want to have a real conversation.
Here's the fact, sport. McRae lied about Nate Brodie being Kyle's lawyer. Blatantly lied. And I called him out on it. And I called him out publicly, very pleasantly. Hey, mate, you think
Jesus Christ,
you think you want to pull that in? You think hang on, do you want to listen for a minute? Do you want to listen and understand something for a minute? Because I can show you the screenshots. I then went privately with him and said, mate, you've crossed the line here. You know Nate can't be that. You know very well why Nate can't be that. A, he operates in New York, and B, he doesn't like Kyle. So I think you should retract that. That's when McRae told me, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? You used to be on my side. Well, mate, I've never been on anyone's side. Because prior to that, I used to calm McRae down when he kicked off against Aaron and he kicked off against Delahunt. And he used to listen to me. So what blew me and McRae up was his treatment of me. So you want to play fucking nasty with me, Steve? You want to block me everywhere? Fuck you.
So that gives you the right to fucking play nasty and shit on anybody who doesn't even know what the fuck is going on, right? Right. So the first conversation I have with you in Twitter, that gives you the right to just shit all over me when I was being perfectly fucking civil. Fuck you. This is why you guys actually lend Steve's narrative fucking weight.
Guess what?
Because of people like you.
Guess what, Sparky?
What narrative?
Define the narrative for us.
Trolls. Fucking shitheads.
Agrippa,
just
let
like
me jump in here a sec. Agrippa, hang on, let me jump in here a sec. Reed, do you know why Steve unpersoned me?
No.
Okay. Well, let me outline this for you. I had a roommate. He turned out to be a shitty person. He moved out with very short notice and didn't pay his rent when it was due on the 1st. And also left me with some other debt. So I started a small GoFundMe to cover this debt. For that, Steve decided to call me a fraud, unpersoned me, and then say that I contacted this person's job to tell them he was suicidal multiple times. Over and over again. And he did this all while having me blocked every fucking where. He never actually had a conversation with me. You want to see, you understand how pissed off you are at Agrippa? That's how I feel about Steve. But Steve will never have a conversation with me because he's too big of a chicken shit to actually do it.
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
He won't have a conversation with me because he knows it. I fucking known him when he was a fucking nobody. Before he had anything.
Guys, I'm not doubting anything of what you're saying. What I'm saying is people like fucking Agrippa who come at me and just shit all over me before even explaining anything. Oh, the first time I fucking talked to the guy on Twitter, it wasn't even about Steve. It was about Reds. And then Agrippa just starts shitting all over me for being a working class fucking loser asshole. What kind of vacation is that to Arizona, you fucking piece of shit? And then saying how Red stutters and lives in a works in a warehouse and was a plumber.
Reds is a piece of shit, but let's not even bother with that right now.
That's okay. That's fine. Whatever. But this is how Agrippa fucking goes about, explaining his truth to people. And then you wonder why, and then everybody fucking wonders why, we believe Steve.
So
you're a moron. That's why.
So just out of curiosity, when
that's why. Yeah, not your fucking attitude, your piece of shit.
So Reed, just out of curiosity, where was this passion, for people doing this and this trolling, when Steve and Reds and Cheshire started putting forward the straight up accusation that a rape victim was hurting other rape victims by calling out Steve defending David Warden, or going after that same person and claiming that she herself had sexually assaulted somebody at the airport with no reason at all. Like, where is this moral outrage of that stuff?
I try to stay out of all that shit because I like Steve's philosophy content. Like, I like fucking ProLib.
See what happens when
I'm serious.
Do nothing, when all shit is breaking loose, right?
No, I just you know, I get it.
Look, I don't agree with everything that's in ProLib's Discord. I don't go on a fucking tirade and fucking start making videos about how I think certain things are sexist or whatever in the jokes and everything.
There's a huge difference between Donald Trump as a troll and rape victims as a bad
Donald
person.
Trump.
That is a huge fucking difference.
Jesus Christ.
No.
It's in my Twitter handle.
There's a big difference. There is a big difference between something political and calling out a rape victim. That is a big fucking difference.
Do not equate the two. How many times have I fucking said I disagree with Steve on that? I don't think he's a rape apologist, but I think Warren's a guilty piece of fucking shit, and Steve went about that the wrong way.
Can I point of order real quick?
One more thing. Sorry, you still carry a Twitter handle, you know, with the tagline, like, what is it, like, veteran of the Smob Army, you know, the same trolls that went after, like, literally went after a rape survivor. And people that said that in the comments that went after her and said, you know, that they hope that she gets raped, people that they called her, accused her of sexual assault, all these other people that recognize this fucking Smob Army shit that you guys are fucking putting out there, and you carried that tag.
You're telling me that there's people. You're telling me that there's people with that fucking Twitter handle that have said that.
Yeah.
Do you know Ash Scott? Oh,
who? Ash Scott? No.
Okay. She's yeah.
No, never heard of her.
Okay.
Look, what about Cheshire Vic? We can just go with that one.
Yeah, of course I know Chesh.
Yeah, because her as the lieutenant or captain of this Smob Army that's putting forward this layered argument about how Fiona is sexually assaulted somebody.
Well, and a point of clarification: Fiona never called Steve a rape apologist. She said the arguments that he was using were common rape apologetics, and so people keep misrepresenting that in order to be able to attack her even more.
Yeah, I mean, but that's fine. Like, that's fine. Like, so you belong.
Wait, you're telling me that her video didn't lead to that, and she walked it back? I mean, I watched her video.
So
look at the title.
Yeah, Rape Apologetics 101.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. It's funny. Like, I remember watching a Redline video a while back, which was really funny. I wish I could find it, but he hides most of his shit, unless it's a fucking rocket launch. Where he does the same thing, where he says that I can't remember what it was, something along the lines of like, well, no, I didn't say that this person was this. I said that they're acting like that. You know, like, pay attention to the words that are coming out of my mouth. And I remember listening to that then, thinking, just like, man, it's a stupid fucking argument. And it's the same thing that, you know, like when when I hear people like make that argument, like I've said before this, like, yeah, I think that the language was really strong in Fiona's video because, you know, it might imply that, you know, but it doesn't say that. You know, that's just what people are trying to infer from it. And you know what, when they say, I mean,
well, it's pretty easy to infer.
Well, I mean, if that's a conclusion that you come to, I mean, if you listen to this and you say like, hey, you know, like I see what she's coming from because you're right, like, you know, it does seem like rape apologetics, and then all of a sudden you put two and two together, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, maybe, you know, what he's doing is committing rape apologetics. Then it's like, okay, well, something's got to give, and so therefore it's just, you know, you go and, you know, blame Fiona for it or something. I don't know what it is, but let's go back to like the other point which is just that, like I said, like your Twitter handle carries literally like the fucking marker of somebody who has been harassing other people online. Because Cheshire is a white hat troll apparently, so it's okay to fucking make false sexual assault allegations against people if you're a white hat troll, and your mere involvement by carrying that fucking, like, having that on your Twitter handle, and you wonder why friends of Fiona don't give you any type of leeway in a conversation.
Yeah, because you're part of her. And
Small
she is a
army.
problem. She's a problem. But let me.
Could I say something?
I want to step in real quick, and then Fiona, please after me. Like, I wanted to step in. I specifically came in to say that Fiona took great care to not call Steve a rape apologist, and the reason why she did that is because one single incident of rape apology does not mean that you're forever a rape apologist.
Real quick, before Fiona talks, hold on one second. I just want to explain to the audience what's going on. So we did a stream earlier. We started at 9 p.m. and I did about 45 minutes on what you see in the thumbnail, right? The topic of the video. What's going on right now is we have an open hangout in the Discord. Anyone is welcome to join. You come in, you join the Discord, you come into the general chat channel. Don't be a dick, obviously. But that's what's going on right now. Is you are hearing people debate the topic of whether or not Steve stole the GDC and the brass tacks document, all of that good stuff. Fiona, the floor is yours.
Thank you. There was something that was said that has caused me to jump right in here. Read. I walked nothing back. Not a thing. I went out of my way to not call Steve a rape apologist for the very reason that Spackle just explained. Because I didn't think that one instance was enough to call someone a rape apologist. And I thought long and hard over that title because I didn't want to call him a rape apologist. I wrote what I meant to say. I have got no control over how people read the words. If they do not understand the words that are written on the page, then they can go and buy a dictionary. The title was Rape Apologetics 101. Do you know what 101 is used to denote? A very basic class in something. So I've walked nothing back. Not a thing. But I'll take up something that Sokka said. And yes, you were one of the ones shitting all over me on Twitter over this, where it was suggested by Ash Scott that me, an exiled, and a third person should be raped. Steve McRae liked that comment. You were there, sticking up for Steve McRae and how terrible Fiona was. You were there in the threads where people were calling me a disgrace to rape victims, a danger to rape victims. You were there, pal. You were making your comments. You agreed with Steve McRae back then. Now you say you don't agree with him. Have you changed your mind? I'd like an answer, please.
Wow, the silence is deafening.
Muted. You might have to unmute yourself.
The working class aren't very good with technology.
Well, I'd like to just point out something. I'd like to point out something while we've got this time with deafening, which is, he said first of all that he Oh, hang on. There you go. You've unmuted. Go ahead, Reed. Respond to Fiona, please.
Yeah, sorry, I cut out for a second there. What was I saying? What Twitters was I liking?
No, Fiona was saying you put out Twitters in support of the position of Steve McRae, calling Fiona slanderous and inaccurate names. You were in support of that position.
I retweeted them or liked them.
Fiona, perhaps you ought to just say again your position now he's here.
Oh, there were plenty of very snide comments and likes, and I was called a liar, a disgrace to rape victims, a danger to rape victims. And in the middle of this small
Did I
army.
call you a disgrace?
Excuse me.
Oh,
and in the middle of this smob army that were doing this, you were there as well. You
And
made
I
my
called
Twitter an absolute shambles. And you were supporting Steve McRae. And that's the one thing. You
because I don't think he's a rape fucking apologist.
I didn't say he was a rape apologist, did I?
I listened to your video, Fiona, twice, and yeah, that pretty much
Not
seemed like
once. No. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. And not once in that video did I call him a rape apologist. Not once.
Fiona, one second, Fiona. Reed, did you listen to someone else's opinion or read someone else's opinion about Fiona's video before you watched it?
No, I think I listened to Fiona's video twice before
before you saw anything else.
The community even knew about it.
Okay, I want to try and give you. So I came back in here for a second, to try and give you some credit, right? You're one of the few people who will actually step outside of the cloister, I'll call it that, for lack of a better term, to actually engage and disagree, right? So I do have to give you some credit because I genuinely do respect people who will stand by the things that they say and actually confront those they disagree with. And I think that not too many people get enough credit for that. Far too many people are upset by some of the things that I say about them. And honestly, you shouldn't care. Like when Agrippa talks about the working class, like you honestly shouldn't care. But it seems to really impact people. The things that I say about IQ seem to really trigger people for some reason. Yes, I do biochemistry. So what? You
so what care. Tweet did you find, Drag?
So, huh?
So what tweet of me did you find?
No, I didn't find anything, but I'd be remiss if I did not mention that is something commendable. I still think you've done and said some pretty despicable things, and people are letting you know now, but you are a step above others because McRae has kind of molded some of you to be afraid of confrontation outside of his echo chamber. But there are people who are seeing that, yes, you can step outside of an echo chamber and actually engage. That's what McRae walked into when he came to the original GDC. There was none of this hiding on Twitter. There was none of this hiding off air. There was none of the hiding stuff that some of you folks like to do, right? That did not exist. If you had an issue, you could go to a fairly neutral hangout and address it publicly. And it was hashed out or it would just continue on. But this cloister echo chamber nonsense that goes on is something that McRae ended up representing and encouraging other people to do.
Okay.
I just want to.
I'm listening, man.
Step in and Messenger Reveals mentioned that he believes that he's blocked on this channel, ProLib, and thinks that is hypocritical, and I'm just forwarding that feedback.
Sure, Non Sequitur Show just commented. Hello. The mods, I don't know if the mods blocked him. I don't block or ban anybody. The mods handle all of that. So,
okay.
No, wait. I'm sorry. One of the mods said there is an issue. He claimed someone was trying to dox him, which is he was alleging that someone had done something illegal when they didn't, and I believe that was the reason. The mods can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, so Fiona, did Reed answer your question about the tweets to your satisfaction?
No, I think he just tried to wriggle out of it. Listen,
okay.
I'm not trying to wriggle, Fiona. I promise you that. I'm just saying, from me watching your videos, it seemed like you were calling Steve a rape apologist, and I disagreed. Even though I fucking think Warden is a guilty piece of fucking shit.
If I wanted to call Steve a rape apologist, I would have called him a rape apologist.
I would think I need to clear. I'm the one that's calling Steve a rape apologist. Fiona won't, but I do.
Yeah.
May I say
That's
something?
cool. We could just move on. I'd just like to just move it on a second here, right? Which is to say, you said, just rolling back a little bit, Reed, that you because you agreed with some philosophical point that Steve made, you didn't want to get involved in this business about Dave Warden. That's the issue. That's the problem, right? Many people in this community got banned because they didn't like those kind of attitudes, right? Where he would falsely come out with some false statements, not back them up, not have receipts for it, all right, and then double down and kick people out. And it's because of attitudes that you just displayed that people have such an issue with how the community was being run. Okay, and I just want to point that out. I'm shocked.
I understand that.
I didn't want to criticize Steve because I agreed with a philosophical point. There's a bigger point,
Well,
a moral.
No,
No. In my opinion. Thank you.
I have been open about my views on Warden in his live chats. I'm
not talking about Warden. We know what Warden did, right?
Okay.
That's a matter of court record. I'm talking about Steve's attitude to it.
Yeah, I don't like his attitude to it.
You said you don't want to criticize it because you agree with the philosophical point. That's bullshit.
Wait, what? What do you mean? I have criticized.
Okay, slow down. You did sound like you didn't want to criticize him on something that was serious, like what happened with Fiona and stuff like that, because you liked his philosophical content or that side of him.
You can go even into Fiona's video and probably find me saying that I disagree, but I think Warden's a piece of shit. Like, I guess, like, I guarantee you can go into places and find me saying that I think Warden's a guilty piece of shit, and I disagree with how Steve's
never.
So
never.
I just want to say one thing.
Make the point.
Okay. Like the thing is, it's just a matter of consistency. Okay, it's that the us versus them attitude here. I'm friends with Fiona. I like Fiona. Me and Fiona have been at each other's throats 3 times in the last 2 days. You know,
it's felt like about 30, but yeah.
Yeah, whatever. We disagree on things. We you know, like I actually we had a very heated discussion earlier today, you know, about topics, but that's what we'll do because you know it's, you know, we're allowed to have these disagreements and shit. I don't have to side with everything that she says. She doesn't have to agree with everything that I say. It's just one of those things. But with I guess the problem that I have, it comes down to like just one of consistency, which is that it's really easy to jump on the bandwagon with the whole us versus them thing, and I wouldn't want anything that I say here to you know to have you go out and you know say you know fuck Steve, you know screw that guy, whatever. We're beyond that. You're friends with Steve. I get that. I was friends with Steve. A lot of the people that have been through this hangout tonight are friends with Steve. People that tried to approach me before in the past have been friends with Steve. The only thing that like I would say is that you should never have to sacrifice your integrity for a friendship. And when it comes down to the times where it's just like, listen, that yes, if you agree that Warden did these reprehensible things and that Steve's defense of Warden is not a good thing, then also Steve's attacking of people like Fiona is not a good thing as well. Those are things that like have to be like that if you become complacent with that, if you're silent on those issues because you know he's a friend of yours because you like what he like says about philosophy, then you know you are encouraging more of that behavior, and that behavior is dangerous. That behavior is you know stuff that you know we disagree with, and I'm just saying that there's a certain amount of consistency that you should have, and you should not be afraid to have to you know say, listen, I can agree with you on all these other points here, but you shouldn't have done that, and do that enough times, and you know, like either you know, say well, like thank you, you know, you're for keeping me in check and not going overboard on this stuff, or he's going to throw you to the curb, and you shouldn't be afraid of either of those. Okay, one of them is good because he changes, and the other one is if he throws you out there because he doesn't value your opinion or doesn't value your opinion as a friend. Then you know what? He never valued your opinion as a friend. Who fucking cares? And so all I'm saying is that listen. If you agree with the stuff with Warden, and you disagree that you know he should be out there attacking people who do also disagree with his views on Warden, then you shouldn't have to sacrifice your integrity by not commenting on that stuff. And if you choose to remain silent, and continue to support somebody like that afterwards, then you can't be surprised when people that are hurt by this go after you as well. My apologies. Sorry, but it's going to happen.
Thank you.
Could I say something?
That's
Because
well
I've had a-
put,
I've had a-
and I have to agree with that.
I've had a
Fiona,
request.
finish up here.
I've had a request in the live chat that's totally off topic, and it was way back. But I'd like to do it for this poor person that requested it. They may take our lives, but they will never take our freedom. There you go, Braveheart.
That's fabulous. Can I say something?
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Kitty. Go ahead. You haven't talked at all, so go right ahead.
Yeah. So I actually was a bit of a latecomer to this as far as the warden thing, and I was trying to learn more on Twitter. And Exiled is the one that sent me Fiona's video. I actually didn't know of her or most of the people in that corner of the community. I was more Godless Engineer, Godless Cranium, like that side, Professor Stick, that side of Atheist YouTube.
Okay.
And I watched Fiona's video multiple times. And I paused it. I thought it was very well done, and I thought she took a measured approach with it. I mean, sure, someone could say that, adding the emotional music, could make people a little bit charged about things, but honestly, that's just being nitpicky. I think she did a phenomenal job, and I watched it multiple times, pausing it so that I could read the documents that she showed in it, and I thought she made a very compelling case on the matter. And from that point forward, looking into it further, going back to the live streams that Steve had done and looking at the defenses he did for Warden in his side chat. I mean, I'm a survivor of rape myself, and some of the things he said I found absolutely deplorable. And I came into this not hating Steve. I thought he was a bit of an asshole because of the stuff that went down with him and Caitlin Chloe, but that was years before non-sec was a thing. And I saw some of his interactions. I actually didn't watch non-sec because Steve kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But he had never done anything to me personally, so it's one of those live and let live kind of thing. But then once I saw Fiona's video, I did some digging and some research on my own, and just a cursory Google search, all I had to do was type in this man's name and see that a few months prior to when he was platformed, he was arrested for raping his daughter. And if Steve was telling the truth, that this guy came to him beforehand saying, hey, I've got a record, blah, blah, blah. I mean, at the very minimum, you would think some due diligence would be done to actually look into this person. And also that I agree with Fiona with when she said it seemed like he had an axe to grind and he wasn't the best person to platform for police auditing, because this guy's a criminal. He's a fucking monster. And I don't like dehumanizing people, but people like him are fucking monsters, and they are garbage people that should be removed from society forever. Like, full stop.
Real quick, we've got a tip from Suge. Suge tipped $10. Thank you, Suge. Says, excellent stream. Also, please check Lulu's video of Bill Ludlow and how Steve doxed Agrippa. Will do.
Well, I will say also that as far as the Earl David Warden thing goes, it's like all that stuff was common knowledge. It really was. If you paid attention to the auditing community at all, there was a giant section of it that distanced him and produced these papers at least a year before Steve platformed him. So it's not like this information was hidden at all.
But I just wanted
I think
to
you
say
failed
that
to mention. Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. I just wanted to say that I thought it was absolutely awful what Exiled and Fiona and the others that were trying to get the information out there went through on Twitter. It was very upsetting for me, and I kind of checked out of the situation because, there's enough toxicity. I can find it around any corner. I'm not going to try to go searching for it. But I want to thank Exiled for actually sending me Fiona's video, because again, I didn't really know much about the situation, but I looked into it and it led me looking into the situation more. And honestly, Fiona's video was my first introduction to like him not being just an asshole, but like just not a good person as far as Steve goes. And I mean, I want to try to excuse things, and I try to make excuses for people, and I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but at some point that just tends to run out, you know? And I don't know, like, it's just a really shit situation all around, and there's a lot of hurt and pain, and a lot of it didn't have to happen. I mean, we are supposed to be the rational ones, the logical ones, the atheists and the skeptics. We're supposed to look at things objectively, and sure, we're humans, we're fallible, and we're going to make mistakes. Our emotions are going to get involved in it. But people just kept feeding into that emotional dumpster fire rather than taking a step back and handling it like mature, reasonable, rational adults. There would have been a hell of a lot less pain if this had happened. And I never once in that video did Fiona say that Steve was a rape apologist. And I did say publicly, someone in the chat said that it looked to me as if Steve was engaging in rape apologetics. And I made excuses for him at the time, saying that if he had faulty information and he was making those statements in good faith, there was no malice or ill intent there, but he was just parroting what had been told to him, it wouldn't change the fact that they were apologetics, but it would mean that he is not a rape apologist, just that he engaged in rape apologetics. I took the same stance on it that Fiona did. And I just want to say, well done, Fiona. Thank you for all the time and effort you put into making that video. It was wonderfully done.
It really was. Real quick, I would request something in the live chat. Batsy is putting up all of your messages on the screen, and she's doing fantastic. And if everyone could just put a B in the live chat, just as a way to say thank you to Batsy, it would mean a lot to her, I'm very sure. And I know it would mean a lot to me. If you could do that, please.
And quick shout out to Caitlin Cho there. I've seen her around for a lot of years in comments, and I hope she's well.
So,
go ahead.
I appreciate that Kitty is been so kind to Fiona, because I've spent the last few months being bloody knuckled on Twitter, and people write me off as a troll, and I'm like, I had to explain to Mathpick, no, that's not all that I am. That's not all that I am. I'm like, because Demi had said to me, she's like, you look like a monster on Twitter, and I said, I know, but a lot of it was driven because I was so sick of what was happening to Fiona. I was so done with it. The whole you ought to be raped things, and like I was in threads where people told me like I didn't understand real victims, and it's like I'm a survivor of childhood abuse and of a sexual nature, and it is enraging that these people are protecting a man that may have assaulted his own children and is convicted of rape of a stranger.
Right, and
it enrages me.
And was a suspect in 4 other rape cases before the rape case that finally convicted him too.
It absolutely enrages me. And then when I said, you know what, I'm a survivor of this stuff, and I have an interest in it, and I feel like Fiona is a good person and doesn't deserve to be treated this way.
Yeah.
And they told me, because first they tell me that because I'm not a victim, I'm hurting real victims and all this stuff, and I'm just an SJW or whatever. And then they swing the other direction and say, because I've suffered, I can't say anything because now I'm biased and I have an axe to grind.
I got the same thing as well. I got exactly the same thing. You can't speak about this. You don't know what it's like. And when I said, sorry, pal, but I do, they said, oh, you can't talk about it. You're too emotionally involved.
And that's why in my video, when I talked about rape apologetics, I said, I'm not a victim. I'm not a survivor of rape, so I can't define it. Here's the definition that I understand the best, but what I need is for people to help me define it. Because as someone that's never been raped, there's no possible way that I could know what the actual definition is.
Progressive, I need to say something really quick. I appreciate that Katie said something with Fiona, but I feel like I would be amiss if I didn't point out that Science First also was not part of the GDC breakup. It had no axe to grind whatsoever. Took a stand against Steve McRae. Did an argument with Rhetoric, which was something. And And that man is a survivor of abuse. And he didn't levy his own survivorship against Red. And he made it a point to kind of stay on task and on target on that modern day debate debacle. And I want to say that Cheshire had sprung this weird trap with Red, where Red was trying to win the argument and said, I've got a rape survivor on speed dial. Let's bring her in. We didn't know who it
That
was.
disgusted me.
We didn't
I'm
know
sorry,
who
I
it
don't mean to
was.
interrupt,
We
but
didn't know
that was
who
awful.
it was. We did not know who it was at the time. But Science First said absolutely not. And if you look at it from two different angles, one is Science First is actually a survivor himself, and he was trying not to levy that emotional baggage. And then two, he didn't want to put that survivor through that just to win this argument. That's just undue, trauma, just to have a third party pulled in just as exhibit A. And three, if he does argue against a rape survivor, he looks like a monster. Like the combination was just a lose, 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 lose. Like it was a terrible idea. And what Cheshire has levied against him is this man silenced rape victims and didn't let me speak. And I was like, that's not at all what this man was trying to do. This man was A, trying to protect you, B, not be a monster, C, not use an emotional argument.
I think Trash Can Jesus was trying to say something. Dana? No, maybe not. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that, it's a lot like the abortion debate. Like, as someone that isn't the owner of a uterus, it's difficult, or a doctor, right, that understands all of this stuff, because I fucking don't. Why should I be deciding what happens inside a woman's uterus or with it at all? Like, I don't own that perspective. And I think the biggest thing that people can do with these kinds of arguments is recognize the right time to step away and say, I can say whose argument that makes the most sense to me, but at the end of the day, I don't have the perspective necessary to understand the issue intimately. I don't have it. And I see such a lack of that with these very, very serious issues.
I just want to say that they railroaded Science First on a Defengo hangout. And he was a bit shouty and heated and emotional in that. But also what Cheshire was doing is diabolical. And you should watch that hangout because it says a lot about her. A lot.
That Lincoln wants to put it in the chat. Go ahead, Simus.
Disgusting, her behavior. Absolutely disgusting. And again, I decry that side. I decry the fact that they've got an echo chamber to be able to allow this to continue without people standing up in their community and saying, no, this is morally wrong, right? To accuse people that are themselves rape victims just because you wish to defend somebody's reputation on the internet. I really decry it. And, I'm sorry to be triggered earlier on in the Hangout, Reed, but I think what you said was nonsense. And I think you should back down and apologize for saying that. And then I secondly think you ought to go to Steve and say, you need to make a public apology for some of the things you've said and the people around you have said, because you are defending people for having within this community a disgusting attitude.
What do I have to retract?
Right. Go back earlier to the Hangout and listen to what you said. Okay. And then you find what you think you should retract. Okay. Because I don't think stepping away from somebody and saying, I'm not going to criticize somebody because I agree with a separate position. I think that's wrong when it comes to these kind of moral topics. All right. We all know clearly, we all knew as soon as Chesh said the things she said about certain people in this room, that she was incorrect and she was lying, right? And that should have been a big shout out to everybody in their community to stand up and say, no, we're not going to go down that route. We're not going that far. That's wrong. All right. If you want to make a point, but don't do it using other people's name and reputation. That's just disgusting.
People are terrified of Cheshire. People show up in my DMs from that other side, and I'm not going to put their DMs on blast and shout out their names. But there are people that sneak into my DMs from that side, and they are terrified of her. She has some of my docs. She keeps all this information on me, this and that and the other. People are scared of that moment. And the reason is because they gave her the benefit of the doubt, and then they realized later on she's a psychopath.
Now this is just a rumor that I heard. So take it with a grain of salt. But for
salt,
Steve,
yes, all of the grains of salt, but go ahead.
all of the grains of salt. But I had heard from somebody that used to be a moderator for Steve that he decided that if someone wanted to be a moderator for him, they had to hand over their docs to Steve, like give their addresses and names in order to be a moderator. And this person said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't trust you with that information, and decided not to be a moderator any longer. So again, take it with a grain of salt, but
Yeah,
it's something I heard,
you know,
and that would be a
sure.
reason why someone might be afraid if you had to hand over your docs and you do it in good faith thinking, hey, everything's fine, I trust and believe in this person. But again, it's one of those things, like if you're scared that people might come after you and they know where you live,
Right.
that could be a reason to force compliance through fear.
Wait,
This
wait,
is
wait, wait,
somebody
wait.
that buddies up with the Fango. She buddies up with the Fango. The Fango's
These guys are good at doxing, aren't they, Reed? Eh? Remember that one, Reed?
Yeah.
Where'd you got
Oh yeah,
my doc.
Agrippa was doxed.
Hold on.
And
For
Steve
one,
said he deserved it. He deserved
You've got my
hold on,
docs, haven't
hold on.
Steve did
Agrippa.
say in one of his hangouts to not let certain people come in and criticize him to one of his hangouts until they gave them their full name and proof of who they were. He didn't. I don't remember him specifically saying address or anything else like that, but full name and proof of who they were, and they had to have a channel that had a picture and content on it. And there are people like in his cyberbullying with especially with like the what's that makeup one, like Lily Jean, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
Lily Jean.
Like the people who
Which he seeked out to
Right.
get more views, honestly.
Well, yeah, obviously, but he is requiring these people to give him their full name, which gives him power to dox them, whether or not they have.
Dennis, who we have our differences, but I trust David. I don't think David is a liar. Says that's not happening, and I'm going to have to side with David on this one.
This was what I'm talking about is in one of his hangouts, like live. Like you can go. I have to go back.
What Kitty?
All I'm saying is
what Kitty
that,
heard. The rumor that she heard. That's all.
That some talking heads have told me that they are scared of her.
Okay, hold on.
Let Reed go. Let Reed go.
For one, I mean, don't all of you have our docs if we Patreon to you and give you our credit card number? Or
No.
No.
You've obviously never had a Patreon, have you?
If it was a fundraiser, then you get it then, right?
No, you don't.
No.
Not unless you choose to link it to a personal Facebook or something, and then if you don't have to, you don't have to.
Nope.
I
got to read this. Hold on.
If you're paying direct on PayPal from your PayPal to somebody else's PayPal, it can go through depending on how you have.
Okay, sure, but not
PayPal.
Not through Patreon. And hold on. I'm in charge. Non Sequitur Show says it's ironic how he had a legal right to have my docs, but couldn't even get that right. Yes, I just needed to read that. Go ahead.
Old Man Dan.
Kyle did 95% of the work. I'm just saying.
Can I ask?
Old Man Dan. Sorry.
Can I ask a quick question with regards to addresses and stuff with Discord? Or not Discord, sorry, Patreon.
Sure.
Yeah.
What's up?
Like when Kyle was going to create a new Patreon for Tastecraft or whatever it was he was doing, there was an option that if you pay for the highest tier, that he would send you some kind of gift. Therefore, wouldn't he need your address? Like, just as an example.
No, because that's handled. Like you can do that through Patreon. Like you do that through Patreon.
Okay, so
you don't.
he doesn't directly get the address.
No,
It
I don't.
depends on how you do it.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
isn't
there are
a-
ways, but for instance, hold on. So for instance, if I was selling a T-shirt on Teespring and you bought my T-shirt, Teespring gets that information, but they don't give it to me. I don't see it for any reason. Right.
Okay, so like Patreon would deal with the address, not say Kyle in my example.
Again, it depends a little bit on how you set it up. It could be set up that way, but not normally. Not normally.
Okay. I just had to I was just thinking about the conversation and how that worked.
In most cases, the party that's producing the merchandise is the one that needs the shipping address. So your address would never be given to the party whose Patreon it is.
Okay.
In most cases. There are cases where that's not a thing, like if they're hand making something and they have to mail it to you personally, but that's an exception.
By the way, I wanna give a shout out to Cheshire and say, Cheshire, I see that you're a chaotic neutral. I'm a lawful good. Fuck you. I'll talk to you anytime. Come talk to me, bitch.
All right. Well, here's what we're gonna do. I need to put a button on this at some point. So, what I would like to do is, I'd like to start with Fiona, and I'd like to let Fiona tie her stuff up, and then I'd like to let Reed tie his stuff up, and then I'll work my way through the list. So, Fiona, you go first.
Well, first thing I need to say is Moira McTaggart. Kitty knows what that's about. And
I love you.
I think what I'm seeing here is that there are a group of people who are in a position that many of us were in a few years ago. And then we became wise. And it's hard when that realization begins to dawn. You suppress it, you push it down, you make excuses, and eventually you can do it no more. And you have to walk. But by that time, new people have come along. They swallow it. And then the same thing happens to them. And they walk. But the next group's already in there. And it's a constant churn. Always churning people. And I think the realization is going to dawn on the current crop. But there's already a new lot coming. And so it's never ending.
Sarah Michelle just said something. Yes, and Sarah Michelle just said something that I meant to bring up earlier, and I wanted to let you guys talk. I didn't want to interrupt. But Steve said we were led to believe that the criticism was because Steve platformed a rape convict, which is not true. I would have a rape convict on my show if we were talking about their rape conviction and maybe they wanted to talk about the unfairness of the judicial system. You know, there's a lot of different things that we could talk about, right? But what they did is they turned the narrative into, oh, you all are just SJWs mad that he had a convicted rapist on his channel. No one was mad about that. I'm sure somebody was mad about that, but 99% of people were not angry about that. We were angry about the fact that Steve said he had secret evidence that proved that Earl David Warden wasn't a rapist and that the woman consented to him. I did all of that the other night with the Messenger Reveals. I'm not going to do it again here. And Sarah, thank you for bringing that up, and it's good to see you as well. I'm sorry, Fiona, go ahead.
I'll just point out, I explicitly make that point in my video that sparked this whole thing off, and yet they still got it wrong. And I think it just shows that there are a lot of people, when I look at the analytics on my channel, a lot of the people who commented under my video were lucky if they watched it for over a minute. And that told me everything I needed to know. Go and have a look at the like and dislike ratio on that video. And you will see why I'm saying that seeing my analytics told me everything I needed to know at that point. They were clicking onto the video, hitting a dislike, leaving a comment, but they didn't watch the video. They just went by what they were told. And if somebody is telling you, don't watch this video because here's what it says, your first question should be, why don't they want me to look at it for myself? Why do they need to tell me what they think of it? Be critical, be skeptical, look for yourself every time. I'm done.
Thank you, Fiona. Science First says, it was Lovely Death XXX that Steve said could only talk if she told him her real name. It did happen. Find her on Twitter and ask Science First. I will. And so, Kitty, that does lead some credence to maybe that's the genesis of the rumor that you heard. Reed, I want you to go ahead. You can.
Well, in the side chat that he had heard it as well.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Reed, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Floor is yours, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's so many bigger things going on in the world right now. I honestly don't understand this obsession with Steve McRae. I love your show for its political content. I love Steve's show when he's doing his science and other content, and I really love this whole community when they're not at each other's throats on Twitter and elsewhere making these videos back and forth about each other. I think there's larger problems in the world we need to worry about and tackle instead of tackling each other. But I appreciate you having me on. Everybody, it was nice to actually talk to people in person. Well, as in person as this is, but yeah, it's been eye opening and this and that. But
Sure,
I think,
and that's what I wanted. I wanted a neutral place that anybody could come. Let's clear the air. What happened with the GDC? Right? What really happened?
Sorry.
And go ahead, Sokka.
Sorry, I had to jump back in. Yeah, okay. Reed, you just said something again. I had to jump back in just for this one point. And don't get me wrong. Okay, first off, listen. I do appreciate you being here. That's great. But it's just like that statement. I don't understand this the fixation or fascination or obsession, I think is what they're trying to use, with Steve. And it's like I can't believe that I have to clarify this, but I will. We're talking about a group of people, that have been accused of actual crimes, okay, by this guy, and they're at the audacity of these people having to speak out and try to defend themselves against the shit that this guy says about them. Isn't a fucking obsession? Like, what the fuck is that, man? Like, sorry, if you go around calling somebody a fucking, saying that they are hurting rape victims, or that they are a fucking, that they have sexually assaulted somebody, or that they were, trying to commit fraud, or trying to steal this shit, all these accusations there.
And I try to make people commit suicide. That was what I was
Oh,
told.
yeah, I like that one. Yeah, they are trying to trigger people into killing themselves so they can take bets on it. And you think that these people to stand up and say,
wait,
this guy is lying is an obsession?
Who is doing this from from Steve's side?
Mostly
Steve. Who is saying all this stuff? Like, you guys talk about all of his followers. Like,
it was Steve. It was Steve
I'm
himself.
in this community. I don't see all these fucking vicious comments.
Then you need to open your eyes, bro.
I've seen them. Reed, I've seen them. I saw the one where he said that people were trying to get others to commit suicide and running a book on who was going to be the first to commit suicide. That was a tweet by Steve about all of us. And it's
also,
not
there's
true.
a video of
How about this
saying
one?
that we're part of the dark web.
How about this one? How about this one? How about 3 weeks after a death of a friend of a lot of people in this chat, Steve coming out there and saying, "Hey, I have secret information that this person hated them the entire time." How about that? Is that worth obsessing over?
To Fiona, who's best friends with that person. And oh, by the way, Jade gave me her phone number because she knows I struggle with depression, and she said, "Call me anytime, kid. You're one of my favorites."
So you'll have to excuse
So she's
me.
lying?
You'll have to excuse me, Reed. If that when you make a statement like you don't understand what the obsession is about, then I think you're a fucking idiot.
You'll have to excuse me, honestly, with all due respect, when you blanket these statements with everybody who supports Steve, and I don't see it. Sorry, I don't see it. You know,
Okay, but you know what? That's fine.
I'm in Twitter, and I engage with people who are against Steve, and they're fucking rude and shitty as fuck. And
wonder why.
And how am I supposed to, take that?
That's fine. Okay. So listen. Okay.
Like, okay, I deal with Xled, or I deal with Agrippa, or I deal with, these people who just fucking shitty fucking
Exiled
people.
is not rude. If you think Exile's a piece of shit and rude, you need to wake up. She is not a rude person.
I'm telling you, I've been in conversations when I've tried to be patient, and yeah, it's
I'm sorry,
gone
but if you
sideways.
think Exiled is a rude person,
So
you really need
so
to wake
Reed,
up.
so just in case there's any confusion now, okay? Just in case there's you ever thinking about this again, and you're wondering why some of the people out there have this obsession with Steve. Keep in mind that what it is it's just people that have been accused of this shit that deserve the right to speak out against it. That's what the obsession is.
I think everybody deserves the right to say whatever they're feeling.
So do you
totally
understand the
support that.
quote unquote obsession?
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
All
right. Okay. Cool. I gotta go back. I gotta get my kids to bed. Good night.
Thanks, Tucker.
It's okay.
Thank you very much for being here. Spackle, do you want to say anything before we go?
I think with Steve, I've just been grossly disappointed. You have to understand that during the GDC breakup and stuff, I was one of the last people hanging on. Besides, I mean, Sokka lasted a lot longer than I did, but I mean, out of like Drag and Fiona and stuff like that, I was one of the last people trying to hang on and be like, we can build a bench, we can mend a bridge. There, I've had countless conversations with folks like Jade, who passed away, R.I.P. and she cared about Steve, and she cared about Drag, and she cared about Fiona, and she cared about a lot of people, and I think at the time, a lot of us didn't want to give up hope on Steve, and I think even with the Warden thing. Initially, when he had him on as a guest and then he started defending, my first reaction was to give Steve the benefit of the doubt, to be like, you are being fooled by a liar. You have been told something that he has deliberately conflated, and you are repeating his lies. And I thought that Steve was a good enough person to change direction. And I was sorely mistaken again. And I was mistaken back in the GDC. I was mistaken again with Warden. I give up. I give up. Steve's not a good person. I disagree with Sokka. I give up. But I will say this, that I think we should be a little bit gentle to people that have been naive or want to believe the best in Steve or are fooled right now, because I think several of us have been in that same position, and then we eventually are forced into a different position. And so I guess for my own people, try to be kind to people like Reed, who I think I did I fought a long fight to try to believe that Steve would come out in the end as a good person. And I don't think I feel stupid now. I just feel stupid.
Don't feel stupid. Don't feel stupid. You have more than enough faith in humanity for all of us, and I
You
think
have
it's a
way more faith in humanity than I do. I'm a cynical and jaded
commendable
bitch.
thing, Harry. It's a commendable thing, and I think I respect you hugely for it, and always have done. I've seen Steve slander a lot of people around me in this community, and I personally think I would like to see those that orbit his circle calling him out when they see it going wrong. They don't have to call out the ones in the past necessarily, but calling it out when they see it in the future, recognizing that it is a behavioral pattern, and not trying to minimize the feelings of others that have gone before. All right, because there's a lot of shit going on in the world, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't pay attention to the closest shit going on around us, the stuff that we can change. And again, I think that's just some kind of minimization of the way that people feel, and I would decry that. If you see someone doing something wrong around you and you feel that way, then please say something about it, because you're not helping the world anyway.
Yeah, take a stand.
And letting accusations of false rape continue unabated, I think, is just as bad as defending accusations of rape that have been proven. So thank you very much for letting me have my time to speak as well, Progressive.
Of course, absolutely. Sorry, I was doing some moderation in the Discord there. Well, listen, I want to thank all of you for being here. This was far more popular than I thought it was going to be. We do this every Sunday and Wednesday night at 9 p.m. We have open hangouts. And Sunday night, there isn't usually a topic. And Kyle, I just want to say I really respect you for owning up to a lot of the things that you did wrong. I was a very vocal critic of you, and I still think that you did some things in a way that I wouldn't have done them. But you have been very contrite lately, and I really admire that, and I thank you for doing that, because you are somebody that people listen to, and the more people that can behave in your type of manner when they've done something wrong, the better off the world would be. And I want to say thank you for that. But I want to thank everybody that was here tonight. Fiction Fighter and Holy Spackle and Jake and Keon and Kitty and Lisa Marie and Reed and Fiona and Drag and Sokka and everybody in the chat. I really, really appreciate it. I do have more things on this topic and this person that I'm not ready to talk about yet, because it's taking a lot of research. And this will not be my last stream on Steve McRae. That's all I'm going to say right now. Jake wants to say something. Absolutely, Jake, go right ahead.
Yeah, I do kind of want to echo. When you hear somebody say, "Don't watch this video because this is what it says," it's the same thing that was drilled into a lot of us in church. Don't pay attention to science. It's of the devil. Just don't look into it. Just believe us. You really gotta look into it for yourself. You can't just accept somebody else's word for it. But the first time that I really noticed an issue with Steve was the whole Katie Joy harassment, when he just video after video after video after video just attacking her. Like, I could understand like a couple of
48
them.
hours.
When all this stuff happened with Bill Ludlow, like a lot of stuff I didn't know about. A lot of details came to light here today that I wasn't aware of. But what really clued me in at the time was him taking credit for everything Bill did. he would come back and say, "Oh, the only reason Bill's channel blew up is because of me. It's all me that Apologia has a channel. It's all me that Mr. Atheist. He was such a nice young kid back in the day around here, but because they stuck around with Steve, apparently Steve is the big reason for everybody in the community having a channel." And he just, at the time, it really struck me because he said this over and over again about so many different people. And then lastly, I think it's important to have these types of shows, these hangouts, discussions, because when you truly believe there's an issue with someone, it's important to speak out. We need to stop letting those questionable jokes go, like, "Oh, this person should be raped," or the
I agree.
other jokes.
I agree. And I want to say this. If somebody has those criticisms about something that I've said, please tell me. This fear of criticism is anathema to me. I don't know if it's a thing like you're trying to protect your reputation online or something, but no one gets reputation from me online faster than somebody who says, "I was wrong. Here's why I was wrong. Here's what I've learned." Nothing gets cred from me faster than that.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's important to not let this behavior go unchallenged. This is the reason why there are hangouts about Steve. This is the reason that there seems to be all this people talking about Steve, because we see an issue. Some of us believe that he's not unredeemable, and some of us don't believe that. But it's important to let the community know what has been the issue, and to not let that be an issue with them or anybody else in the future. That's all I gotta say.
No, like I think that was really well put. Sorry, do you mind if I say something?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Kitty.
Okay. One thing I have noticed is there actually is a surprising amount of misogyny in this community. And I do appreciate when people call it out when they see it. And there's also a lot of toxicity coming from a lot of different areas. I tried not to get involved in the Steve drama on Twitter. I've got enough going on in my life. I didn't need that. But there were a couple of times that I spoke out publicly. Shh, mommy's on a call. Sorry. There was a couple of times I spoke out publicly. One of them was when he was disparaging Unirock's service, saying that he was a disgrace to the uniform because of a Twitter argument, which I found deplorable personally. And the thing that bothered me the most was the post he made about Katie Joy's son, asking about wanting to discuss his possible diagnoses and whatnot, saying, does this kid look like there's anything wrong with him? Does he look like he's deathly ill? And that really struck me because I am the mother of a special needs child. And if you took a snapshot or a short video, you wouldn't know about any delays that my son has. You wouldn't know about any of the struggles that he has. And beyond the fact that you cannot judge what somebody is going through based on a simple snapshot in time, there's still the fact of the matter that you should never bring someone's child into an argument. I mean, it instantly loses you the argument, in my opinion. Whether you were right or not, you've stooped to a low that is irredeemable, at least in that particular instant. And I don't know, I guess people do too much judging and coming to their own conclusions. And I admit I have been guilty of this too. I've been guilty of this too. I have had rose-tinted glasses and made excuses for people that ended up not being the kind of person that I thought they were. And I think that we all should take some time to pause and reflect on not only the company we keep, but the actions they're doing. And sure, there's that mob mentality, but if you are supporting somebody and there's a whole group of people that are saying there's something wrong, and I'm not trying to appeal to I forget the fallacy where you appeal to the group. Yeah, there you go. I'm not trying to do that, but it does give you a reason to take a moment to reflect and maybe look into the accusations, because if a lot of people are saying the same thing about a person, it may not be true. Sure, they might be making it up, but there's enough there for you to at least investigate and look at it critically and as unbiased as you possibly can be. Human beings are flawed, we are biased, and we look at everything through the lens of our own biases. But if we can all just try to understand each other and listen rather than shouting past each other. You could be on opposite sides, and that's fine. Not everyone's going to agree, but instead of just throwing ad hominems, instead of just shouting past each other, just take a moment to actually have a conversation with the other side, a civil conversation, hear what it is they have to say, and then look at it critically, and they should do the same. And I think that if we can do that as a community, we will be stronger and better, and we won't have these same toxic divides that have been eating away at the community for years before I became a part of it. And as the logical and, skeptical atheists, agnostics, however you want to put it, like, we tend to try to follow the facts, but a lot of these things people have been going by emotion, not by what has been demonstrably shown. And they get heated and upset rather than actually just taking a moment to pause and reflect. And I'm not perfect. I don't always follow my own advice. I give such very good advice, but very seldom follow it. But no, joking aside, I think that we can mend the divides for the most part, but it's going to take work on all sides, and there's been a lot of hurt on all sides, and that's going to make it immensely more difficult. But I think that those that have the moral high ground in this, and I know it's asking a lot, but maybe they should take the first step at trying to maybe de-escalate things so that we can mend those divides, even if we have separate little groups inside of the overall, like, atheist YouTube umbrella. I don't know, I hate seeing people get hurt. I hate seeing the toxicity. I hate seeing the pain.
Sure.
There's so much pain in the world, and, like, I hate seeing more getting added. So I'm just kind of taking a page out of Ethan's Taoist book of let's all just try to
It's not my Taoist book. It's just the one I like. It's just the one I like.
Okay, fine. Fine, fair.
So I want to get to Keon and see what Keon's Keon's message is.
Okay, hello everyone. Yeah, I just want to say to Reed about why Steve called me a troll. Okay, I'm gonna make it very short. So the reason I was upset with Steve was that people went too far in demanding Kyle did not. Well, the people who were supporting Steve were making a lot of noise, and obviously I was upset with that. But it's angry because everyone knows Kyle stole the channel, whatever, right? This is going to sound very crazy, but I was on Steve's side from the get-go. Then I saw people how they were raging each time and doing threats against Kyle and on their channel, right? So I said that was enough for me. So the people who were following Steve were attacking him, attacking Gallus Engineer, and getting Joy Paulson. He called it that doing justice for his fans, for the non-sequitur. He wasn't doing justice. He was upset with Kyle and everyone who didn't support him. So I decided to confront him on one occasion on Twitter because he said that atheists were protecting Kyle, sorry. And if he were a theist, they will be calling him out. So I asked him about the contract, the agreement, the verbal agreement, right? I had a confrontation with Steve, and he told me that I was supporting Kyle, and he accused me of stealing from his daughter's future, and I should jump off a cliff.
Jesus.
Yeah. I understand that's hyperbolic, but
sure,
it's
still not something that you say, right?
So all I wanted with Steve is that he opened his eyes and understand that you have to have a conversation with God and solve this like adults, instead going attacking each other and all that shit that happens on Twitter.
Right.
After that, I was demonized on Twitter for having a different opinion. And I understand Twitter is not the best place to talk about things, but when Steve
Not
says
usually.
something, yeah, his followers take his words as face value. Against that, and I was called a troll. He and Cheshire have done things and said that I'm an inept troll. No?
Are you?
Yeah, but you're Cheshire's favorite troll.
Are you a troll?
Sometimes I say that I'm a troll because, but I can be trolling too and saying I'm a troll. So there's no way to know.
Yeah, you're my favorite troll.
Thank you. Listen.
See, okay. Can I speak really quick since
Sure,
I was
Reed.
brought
Sure.
up again?
Sure, go ahead.
With the non-sex stuff, I mean, my unique perspective on it is that once all of that went down, I did talk to Kyle on Twitter through his non-sec handle, and I told him how I felt and it was pretty amicable, and I had a conversation with GE too, because my perspective was the shows started to get bad. They weren't good. GE is great at his edited videos. I honestly, and I was saying this months before anything even went down, I think he's terrible at debating live and debunking.
No shit. He's a
Sure.
super nice
I don't
guy,
want.
but no shit.
Right. I don't want to. At some point, I have to go to bed, so I don't want to get into a whole nother thing. I want to keep this. I want to stay in one lane tonight. We'll be back Sunday night, Wednesday night. We do open hangouts every Sunday night and Wednesday night. So this is not the last time that this will ever happen. In a couple of days, we'll be doing another one. But yes, okay. So here we go. Thank you everybody for being here. Every Sunday and Wednesday night we do these. We do open hangouts. Everyone is invited. Unless you're banned, and I think the ban list is 3 people ever. So there's not, there's a very good chance that you will be welcome. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget, if you're watching the replay, please comment below and give me your thoughts. I love them. I do a monthly Q&A stream where I go through and I read a bunch of the comments, so your comment might be featured. Don't forget about Patreon. There's patreon.com/ProLib, where you can support me and the content that I do. I think that's everything. And just thank you. Thank you to all of my patrons, like Maya, who is up on the screen, and Zpostate, and Fourth Dimensional Jake, and Reed, and all of you guys, Neko Dolly and Vivi. I you know how much I love you guys. Puff, you guys are some of my favorite people, and I love you to death. We will be back Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for another open hangout. I'm going to leave the Discord channel now, so I'm saying goodbye to the voice channel. And thank you guys again very, very much for being here. And that's going to be it, guys. I want to thank you so much for watching, and thank you all for being here in the live chat. It was an amazing show tonight, and this has been ProLib Live that you've been watching and participating in, and thank you so much. Thank you so much, and thank you to Batsy and the mod team and everybody.
This is the start of how it all ends. Pull the knives out my back for my own friends. I'm surrounded by light, and I have little things that make you grow. Like innocence and mystery, I start to know. Surrounded by light, and I have everything but nothing at all. Everything I touch turns to gold. Ooh. My heart is still wild. People crave to watch me